Welcome everyone to episode 21 of Twitch Tales. Where did we leave off last time? Well, last episode we began with us staring at the withered corpse of Paul, the sheriff, the once sheriff of the town of Shadridge, who was now lying in his bed as a skeletal corpse, having been drained of all his muscular strength. We quickly jumped into action, ordering the other knights that were in the room with us, along with Toria as well, to quickly light up the room, fetch as many candles, torches and lanterns as we could, and get the darkness out of here. We quickly searched the room, searched the bed, searched the awnings, searched the armoire. We noticed the window was open a fraction, similar to how Edith's window was. We closed it quickly. We found no sense of intruder. However, there was a recently snuffed out candle and a recently smashed lantern in his washroom upstairs. We left the house in a hurry, knowing that we were potentially still in danger. And upon the steps outside of his house, we were stopped very briefly by a squire, a low-level recruit to the Knights of Kvosna, known as a squire. We were stopped by a squire called Darren, who inquired as to what was our position here. Why were we giving orders? Warren, a prospective squire, the lowest rank of the Knights of Kvosna, told Darren, Apis outranks us. They must be Wolverine or higher, and they continued. Darren was suspicious and asked us for our knight number. In the moment, Apis was in two minds about whether or not to come clean with their ongoing lie about being an outranking member of the Knights of Kvosna. In the moment, they just, bigger things going on, they decided to just evade the question and get to the barracks, the makeshift barracks, which was a converted barn here on Paul's farm. Inside the barn, sitting around the table, with a lantern, sitting on an oil lantern sitting on the table, Darren saw fit to further inquire. So, what's our knight number? Upon which we decided it was finally time to come clean. We told them, hey, we're not actually a knight, sorry that we lied, we didn't expect it to go this far, yada yada yada. At which point Darren informed us that impersonating a Knight of Kvosna is a serious offence, and he arrested us. Put us in manacles, took us into one of the stables within the barn, which was a makeshift jail cell, and manacled us to a hitching post. Darren then decided to go back to the town proper to fetch Kathleen, the Badger of Kvosna, which is the sort of first ranking member of the Knights of Kvosna, the first proper Knight of Kvosna. She was the one in charge. And so he decided to go back to the town proper to get her, and left Warren to oversee us here in the barn. We then heard Warren struggling with something outside of our cell. We heard his sword be removed from his sheath and start slashing and hitting against things. It seemed to knock against wood. And then we managed to using the magic key that we had in our pocket. We managed to unfasten the manacles and get out of the cell in time to see Warren's body slump against the table on which the lantern was sitting, as the lantern fell off and smashed onto the straw hay of the barn, and suddenly a big raging fire is blocking between us and the door. We grabbed all of our equipment. We grabbed Warren's very light skeletal body. We tipped over the table and we ran. We ran out through the fire, taking significant burns on the way out, but we managed to make it out of the barn before the barn collapsed in fire behind us. A few minutes later, we're not sure how long we were sitting there, staring at the fire, and Warren's necrotic body, housing spiderwebbing sort of fractal effects from some sort of necrosis of the flesh. Darren returned with another squire of Kvosna, and seeing the raging barn and the dead Warren, he immediately, obviously, his suspicions of us grew. He remanacled our hands and kicked us along towards the town proper, leaving Warren's body by the burning barn. We arrived at the town proper. We were taken to see Kathleen, who had been left to oversee Edith's body to make sure that Edith's sleeping person, so that she wasn't further attacked in the night. And when when Kathleen saw us, she seemed to side with Darren in his suspicion of you, thinking that you had been present at the majority of these suspicious occasions and deaths, and that you'd actively lied to them, so there was very much reason to suspect you. So they took you to the Mayor Jackson, and you pled your case to Mayor Jackson. Jackson heard you out. He also heard out the other side of the story, and while he seemed to believe you, he ultimately decided that you were going to... it was going to be better for you to spend the night in his coal cellar, tied up in his coal cellar, so that other people can sleep easy if you are indeed a suspect. So that's where we are going to start the session. You were taken down into the coal cellar. You were stripped of all your belongings, all your possessions, everything, all of your clothing, save for your undergarments. You were blindfolded. You were gagged. And you were manacled around the chimney of a potbelly stove, which is not lit. And Darren, the squire, one of the squires of the town, was left guarding you. Lichtenberg figures, yes, the name of the sort of lightning effect figures that were on Warren's body when you found him. This sort of cursing black and blue veiny texture that was left over his body, indicating necromantic magic. So the knights, with a capital K, knights is a word that in my world is reserved for the sort of police faction, the Knights of Kvosna, the town guards and wilderness explorers. And should you wish, if you get out of this alive, you could actually look into applying for the Knights of Kvosna properly if you wanted to go into that route. But that's under the assumption that everything goes well here and you actually survive the night. So it is early evening. It's after nightfall. But there are still many hours of the evening left before even midnight. It's probably around 7 or 8 p.m. at this stage. I'd say probably closer to 8, just to be safe. You are exhausted. Apis is tired, mentally, physically. They've been working hard today, running this way and that, to and from the town, to and from the different farms. To and from the night, and then all of the adrenaline that's been pumping through Apis' system for the last hour or two, ever since returning to Shadridge with Toria and finding Edith. They've just not stopped. There has been this pounding in Apis' heart, like their heart is in their throat. But now you find yourself in pitch black with a bandana over your eyes, gagged, bound, and forced into sort of a sitting position by this stone wall of a cellar. There's little you can do, so your options are removed, and with that comes a reluctant sense of release for Apis, knowing that whatever happens now is largely out of their hands. They've done all they can to plead their innocence. And so, with little else to do, Apis tries to put their mind at rest and get a little sleep. So I'm going to, with everything that's going on and the fact that Apis is somewhat scared of what's happening, I'm going to roll a wisdom saving throw just to sort of account for Apis' ability to try and overcome their own sense of adrenaline and fear and put themselves into sleep. So we're going to go with, if I remember how to do this, it's a saving throw and it's a wisdom one, so it's going to be this one. A wisdom saving throw. So with the 12, Apis has a real hard time of putting himself into a sleeping state right now, not only because of all of the things that are going on and the adrenaline in the system, but also the circadian rhythm. It's only like 8 p.m. Normally Apis wouldn't be going to sleep until maybe an hour or two later from this. So we try and calm ourselves, but we're sitting there for a good at first we're sitting there for only like 10 minutes or so before the first thing happens. The first thing to happen is that we hear footsteps leaving the cellar with us. We realise that it must be Darren because he's the only other one down here. The only other one that makes footsteps anyway. He leaves up the steps of the thing to the door of the cellar, and then you hear the door of the cellar being knocked on, and then there's like a few minutes of wait before there's like something being drawn off of the cellar door from the other side, and then the cellar door opens, and he steps outside. And he says something to somebody. I'm going to roll a perception check to see if you pick up what he's saying from your position. Perception would be, I think, this one. Yep. With a 15, you can hear that he says to someone. He doesn't call them by name or anything, but he says that he wants them to watch this cellar door and not open it under any circumstances while he arranges something. And then you hear the cellar door close, and something gets scraped across the door from the other side of it. There's another 10 minutes or so before something is scraped across the door, and the cellar door opens, and you hear footsteps descending back down into the cellar as the cellar door closes and is closed and locked behind him. We still try to go to sleep. It's not happening though. With a 12 on our wisdom saving throw, there's just too much going on in our mind. We're racing through things. We're thinking about how Mel's doing. We haven't seen her since this morning. We hope that she's safe. We're racing through all of the things that we heard on the Colton's farm about the stranger Mosh arriving, and the cow being emaciated, and the chickens going missing and drained of blood. We're thinking about all this stuff, and it's proving impossible for us to get ourselves calm enough to go to sleep. Eventually there's a knock on the door, the cellar door, about an hour or so later. Maybe about half an hour later, I'd say, actually. And the footsteps leave the cellar up to the cellar door. And again, as the door opens, he steps out. And you hear him say, "What is it?" And they say, a voice you don't recognise says, "His body's here." Right, thank you. And he steps out, and the cellar door closes. You hear the thing being pushed across the cellar door again, and then you hear some muffled voices. I'm going to see if you can hear that. With the 14, you hear him say, it's muffled behind the cellar door now, but you hear him say to some voice, he says, "You, I want you to stay here and guard the cellar door. Don't open it under any circumstances, and don't let anything out or in. Understood?" Right. And then he walks away. We cannot speak, we've got a gag in our mouth. And then there's another moment where we try to get to sleep. So let's repeat that wisdom saving throw, see if we manage to get ourselves to sleep. It's going to be a wisdom save. 19. So now it's getting late enough in the day that our circadian rhythm is kicking in, and also just from the exhaustion of all of the adrenaline in our system now coming down off of this high. We've been sitting here for maybe an hour or so total. So with nothing to do, our exhaustion finally takes over our body's reluctance to go to sleep, and we find ourselves lolling in and out of a very uncomfortable sleep as we sit upright against this wall, our head sort of lolling in front of us. And then every so often our weight will shift, and like naturally we'll go to like roll over, but our hands will clang against the manacles and dig into the wrist, and it'll wake us up. So we're sort of in and out of an uneasy sleep. At one point, we are just sort of coming out of one of these sleeps. We're not exactly sure what it was that woke us, when we hear muffled voices outside the door of our cellar. One more perception check to see how well we hear it. With a 13 perception, as we're sort of coming round, we hear, "Stop and talk with me a second. I noticed you before, when they brought his body in. Your eyes flicked to me. And just now, when you came down the alley thinking you'd be safe, and then you saw me, I saw the terror flick over your face. You know, don't you? All of this is because of you. I will make you pay. And I think you know that there's nothing you can do to stop me. Because I've already accepted that I'm a monster. The darkness is everywhere. It is your weakness." You hear another voice respond. "How do you figure?" "The people of this town say stay safe with their lights and torches, not knowing that it won't save them. But I know. It's kind of freeing, you know, accepting your own nature. It means I can embrace it. I can use the darkness as well as any other. Listen, I will give you the rest of this night to make things right, or I will hunt down all the ones you care for and destroy them one at a time. I don't care if I die doing it." And then you hear another voice say, "Hey, there you are. What's going on here?" Oh, just dropped a torch and it went out." "Well, don't stand in the dark. Come on." And then you hear footsteps leaving. This is you sort of like you start to wake up a little as these words ringing in the back of your mind, and the meaning of them is sort of managing to cut through the gelatin of your sleep-deprived brain. And some of them are sort of repeating on you, and you're sort of kind of realizing the significance of what you're overhearing, and so you're trying to listen out as best you can. But then the adrenaline starts up again, and you start to hear the blood pounding in your ears, which is actually making it more difficult to listen to what's happening. And you're not sure how long it is after these steps leave. It might be a matter of just seconds before you hear the scraping of metal against wood. And then, as the cold door slowly opens, there's some footsteps that enter the cell, and then as the cold door closes, you don't hear anything being put back on the door on the other side, as the footsteps slowly descend into the cell with you. There's no words spoken. Nothing approaches you. You feel like you're being watched, but you've got no way of telling. Your heart's pounding. You're listening with all of your intent. You don't hear anything, though. You wait and wait, expecting something to happen. Nothing does. What do you guys want to do? Try and get back to sleep? Try and finish this long rest? If you don't sleep tonight, you risk not getting a long rest, in which case you won't get back your spell slots and health. I will say you have had enough time to have a short rest, so if you want to, Rangers don't get back that much on a short rest, but if you want to, we can roll a hit dice or more to try and regain some health. Can you smell anything? You can smell the musty smell of a dank, dark cellar. You can smell the coal and the soot in the air from the coal, being in a coal cellar. We can't speak, Shonen, our mouth is gagged. Try tap out some Morse code. I don't think Apis knows Morse code. Try and sleep. Try to sleep. Try to sleep. Give the hotel a bad review. So you can try. You can have already succeeded in a short rest, is what I'm saying. You've been down here long enough to have had a short rest. So with that you can recover a little bit of health if you want to spend any hit dice to do so. In my games, it's worth knowing that you only get to spend 1 hit die per half hour of resting, and you only recover 1 per long rest. So we can say that you, if you want to, we can say that you have rolled some hit dice. Put a yes emote or a yay or something like that, so that I can visually see if you want to have used a hit die. We have at level 3 we have 3 hit die. We will get 1 back the next time we successfully complete a long rest. So we can use 1 for free essentially. If we want to then decide to use more than that, then you're starting to eat into a resource that won't immediately come back. No, right. You get 1. You get in my home rules. You get 1 hit die back per long rest. All right. Would it change anything if we finish the long rest? If you manage to finish a long rest successfully, you get all your hit points back, 1 of your hit die, and all of your spell slots. But we're several hours away from finishing a long rest successfully. I think we're on 13 hit points. Yeah, pretty sure we're on 13 hit points. All right, nobody's saying no to the hit die, so let's roll a hit die. As a ranger, we get a d10, so I will just do ! roll d10, and then we add our constitution modifier, which you can see over there as a +2. Roll d10 +2, and we recover. We got a 1. We got a 1 on the dice, so we recover 3 hit points. We've spent 1 of our hit points, hit dice. We are on 16 health, which is better than 13 health. Ben, we are as you. That was for the first half hour of this hour that you've been down here in this cellar so far. So if you want, you can spend 1 more hit dice. It's just that this one won't come back on the next long rest. It'll take another night. So one more vote in the chat. Up, vote yes if you want to use another hit dice at this point. 3 yeses, 6 no's, 7 no's, 8 no's, 4 yeses. It's 2 to 1 no at the moment. It's kind of the no's have it, but it's close enough that I think a poll is in order. If you spend another hit die, you're going to get back an average of about 7.5 hit points, so you'll be up to like 24ish, give or take. Most likely, unless you roll a 10, in which case you could get another 13 hit points back, and you'll regain 1 of your 2 spent hit dice the next time you successfully complete a long rest, which might be in a few hours' time if you manage to rest through the night with no other things happening. No point taking hit dice with us into the afterlife. That is a good point. Getting us back to full health would be useful. Yep. Our max HP, as you can see over there, is 38. We're currently on 16, so we do currently have the wounded state, the wounded condition, meaning that we're at less than half of our hit points. All right. So this is why we do a poll, because some people don't like to chat, but they do like to take part in polls, I guess. Because even though the no's had it in the chat, with 74% of the vote, Apis decides, well, it's not really a thing that Apis consciously decides. Hit dice is a mechanical thing that doesn't really come into the roleplay side of things. But the people controlling Apis decides that they are going to spend another hit dice. So it'd be nice to Nightbot, because we're about to roll another d10 +2. And Apis recovers another 8 hit points. Slightly above average this time. Basically just the average. So from 16 we're now on 24 hit points. 24 hit points means that we no longer have the wounded condition, but we're still 14 hit points down from our maximum. But we're at 24. 24 is a little bit more durable than 16. So we try to get back to sleep again after using those hit dice. We try and finish this long rest. 1 more wisdom saving throw, and then we'll see how this goes. Apis has just got too much stuff going on, and having somebody in the cellar with you, far from it comforting Apis and making them feel safer actually makes them feel a little bit more terrified, because they don't know the intentions of the person who's in the cellar with them. They don't even know for sure that it's Darren. And so Apis stays awake for another hour or two. Eventually, after an hour or two, Apis does manage to sleep. Just finds themselves sleeping, not even realising that they've gone to sleep. They just find themselves waking again, realising they must have at some point gone to sleep. And they don't hear anything else in the cellar with them. They listen out for the breathing of the other person in the cellar. And after listening out for it and tuning out all of the noises, they do feel like they hear a sound of very light breathing coming from somewhere else in the cellar with them. And then they also hear a distant scream, muffled by stonework and dirt from above. There is a sudden jolt of movement at the sound of this scream from the other thing in the cellar with us. And then the sound of footsteps on stone steps leading up and out of the cellar as the door of the cellar crashes open. And then the sound of outside rushes in through the open cellar door. We can hear the sound of movement, of people rushing and crying out. There's lots of voices way off in the distance that we can't make out any words, just the sound of fear. And then there is a slamming of the cellar door, and all of those sounds get muffled. They continue, but we can barely hear them anymore. It's only about a minute or two later that there is a loud banging on the cellar door from outside, and almost instantly the cellar door opens at speed. The sound of a woman we recognise, Kathleen, says in a frantic voice, "Has he moved?" And then the voice of Darren we hear respond, "No, he's been here the whole night." "Let me see." And we hear two sets of hurried footsteps coming down into the coal cellar. The footsteps move over to us, and then there is a sound of creaking leather. As someone nearby us, we can sort of tell that there is someone very close to us, kneeling down or crouching. And we hear Kathleen say in a somewhat calm voice, "You should know that I have written down an account of everything that's happened here tonight, and I've sent it with a fast messenger to Fondurg. If you are responsible for this, and tonight goes as I fear it might, you should know that you will be hunted to the ends of the earth. People will know it was you, and this will be the last time you ever set foot in a civilized society without having to look over your shoulder. The Knights of Kavosna will put men looking for you. The Arcanists Entente will have people looking for you. You know as well as I do that necromancy is illegal. Hell, even the PEA will be looking for you. Whether you are working with us or against us, it is in your favour, either way, to help us tonight, even if it's just a pretense to save your own face. One way or another, you need to help us tonight." And then you hear and feel the sound of keys being placed into the manacles around your wrist. And then click, one of them goes loose. She takes you feel a hand graze your cheekbone as she takes the blindfold off your head, and the light, albeit very dim in this coal cellar, the light does somewhat blind you after all of that time in a pitch black blindfold. There are torches lit on either side of the coal cellar, which illuminates and casts eerie shadows around the place. But you see Kathleen kneeling in front of you, and Darren standing with his weapon drawn towards the cellar steps. She takes the gag out of your mouth and says, "I am putting my trust in you, Apis. The mayor seems to trust you. The people of this town seem to trust you. Franklin and his girlfriend have vouched for you. Do not let them down. If you have an ounce of humanity in you." And then she stuffs the blindfold and gag in her own bag, and then gestures over to the corner of the cell, in which you can see there's like a coal barrel sitting on the side, and in the corner is all of your stuff, just kind of loosely folded and placed. She says, "Get dressed, we don't have much time." "What's happened?" do you say? "What's happened? What do you want me to do?" And she says, "There's been another death. Similar to Warren's death. We brought his body back to town and burnt it on a funeral pyre on the outsides of town. We hoped that that would do something. People have been hiding out in the Lucky Loot. But somebody went to bed. We told them to keep a lantern lit. But I guess they didn't. Because fearing that they'd split up from the rest of us, Cliffhanger went to check on them. Their lantern was extinguished, and their body was found in a similar way to that of Warren. Either you're able to control these things without moving, or you don't have control over them, which either terrifies me if you're the one to have created them, or it comforts me to know that you're not responsible. I'm hoping it's the latter." And she's saying all this as you're quickly putting your leather armor on as quickly as you can. Takes a few minutes for you to get this leather armor on properly, to make sure that your armor class is back up to 13 rather than 12, which is what it was without it on. Do we tell her what we heard? It's a good question, isn't it? What do you guys think? Do you think you would tell her what you heard? A few people are saying don't tell her, it makes it sound sus. Recommend holding your tongue as much as possible. Say only what you have to avoid irritating her. Alright, it's going to be a poll. Do we tell her what we heard and when? Put in the chat right now if you want any other options, otherwise it's just those three options. Tell them both, tell just her, or tell neither of them. Is there any option I'm missing? Fireball. Fireball's always an option. So to be clear on what Apis heard and what they think they heard, is they're pretty sure that they heard Mosh outside our cellar talking to someone. And what you heard of what I said is what you heard. And you can remember it as best as you can remember it. Try not to go back and watch what I said. Try and just remember it as if we're playing at a table right now. You don't have the luxury of going back and watching what I said. Not until after the episode's finished anyway. Can ask her at the same time if anyone has truth-telling magic when we tell her to prove we are innocent. That's a good thing. As we're putting on our clothing then, our items, we've got our leathers strapped up now, and we're putting our longbow over our shoulder, grabbing our longsword and sticking it in the rapier, in the the sheath, scabbard. We say, do you know if anyone here has access to truth-telling magics or anything? Is that a thing that exists? And she says, it is a thing that exists, but not in a small frontier town like this. There are people in Fondurg who can do it, but they're a 2-day ride away. Have we got any spell slots back? No, unfortunately not. At this point we have not got a long rest. We have had enough time for another short rest, so if we wanted to use the last of our 3 hit dice, we can do so. I'll put that to a poll once this poll's over. Alright, with 67% of the vote, tell her in private becomes the forefront of Apis's mind, with tell them both coming in 25%. So tell her in private is the thing that Apis goes for. I'm gonna put another poll up immediately, just a 1-minute one, to say do we want to use the last of our 3 hit dice for the day. remembering that we only get 1 back when we successfully complete a long rest. So the benefits of using it means that we're going to get at least another 3 hit points back, maybe even another 13, putting us almost back up to completely full. The drawback is that we only recover 1 every day. So if something else happens again tomorrow, and we have to do a lot of fighting, we've only got 1 hit die for it. How many hit points do we currently have? 24. We are currently on 24 HP out of 38. So we're about 2/3-ish of our maximum hit points. And we do have our health potion, which is down there. You can see it in our inventory. Health potions are expensive and probably not to be used until like we desperately need it. If you use a health potion as an action, it recovers 10 hit points. If you use it as a bonus action, it only recovers 2d4 plus 2. So anywhere between 2 and 10 hit points, 4 and 10 hit points. With 73% of the vote, yes, you do want to use your last hit die just to make sure that you want to make sure you're as full as can be for any potential fight that may happen. So we are going to use our last hit die and get a 12. We roll 10. All right, 10 hit points back. 12 hit points back, rather. So we go from 24 to 36. We are almost at full hit points. So we're putting all this stuff on. Do we want to ask who died? Is that a thing that Apis would ask right now in this moment, as they are waiting for us to get our stuff on? Yes. So Apis says, listen, who died? And she said, he was a handyman called Terry. And you don't think you've met him, the name doesn't ring a bell, and you don't think you've met any handymen around the town. Was he old? No, he was in his 30s, I think. And with that you realise, with Warren's death and Terry's death, there seems to be no longer a link to being old, which there certainly was at first. The first 3 victims, Dickie, Edith and Paul, were all old people. But Warren and Terry, not so much. Why did you think that burning Warren's body would help? When we saw the necromantic magic on it, it conjures stories of the undead rising again, and we didn't want that to happen with poor Warren. Even if it does nothing to quell the current scourge, it prevents him coming back as anything else. There is currently a funeral pyre the same funeral pyre is currently being relit near the town square for Terry's body. How can I help? She says. We need you. We need your services with a bow and a sword. There are very few knights in town. There is now only me, Cliffhanger, and Darren. There are others who have stepped up to the mark. Mosh is helping. Franklin is helping. William is helping as well. Many people are pitching in where possible, but we need your help. And as I say, if you do not help us, even if you take out this entire town, you will be on the run for the rest of your life. And she hopes, it seems, that will be enough to persuade you to not kill the town. Not knowing, of course, that you're innocent. From her perspective, she's trying to give herself as much of a leverage over you as possible. Need more background on Terry. Where did he come from? Did he have a family? What race is he? You ask her this as you're moving, Matthias, and she says that Terry, with an A, Terry he was a human male. He didn't have a family here. He was dating a woman, a young woman, Danielle, but he has no family with her yet. So what do you guys do? You're just going to follow along now, listen to instructions? You ask, as you're leaving the coal cellar, following her, you ask, is anybody able to get out to Jack Creed's farm and get Mel? And she looks at you confused. The bee? Listen, I don't have time to explain it, but she is very good in a battle situation. She's the reason that I'm still alive. She's helped me out in more than one situation, and I've helped her out. We work together very well. Is there any possible way that anybody can fetch her? And she says, "I'm sorry, no, I can't afford to. I can't afford to lose anyone to running an hour each way to fetch a bee, just on the off chance that she might be able to help us fight whatever. The fight is real right now. We need to go." And she continues on around the front of the mayor's house. You follow around, and it's quite well illuminated compared to the back of his house, the sort of alleyway almost at the back of his house. It's quite well illuminated out in the front square. You can see the town square, and it's like got this circular sort of place where the market is normally set up if necessary, and it's lit up by torchlight here, there, and everywhere, and street oil lamps have been turned on and everything. As we move, before she goes too far, you sort of take her by the arm and say, "Excuse me, Kathleen, can I just talk to you real quick?" And she looks and says, "Yes, what is it?" "Could I talk to you in private?" And Darren sort of audibly scoffs and puts his hand on the pommel of his sword in his sheath. And she says, "Anything you can say it in front of Darren." And and what do you say to that? "Would maybe Mel be able to see the smoke from the funeral pyre?" It's an hour's walk away, which is about 3 miles, so probably not. And it's nighttime, and she doesn't have dark vision, so I'm going to say 100% not. "We need to tell Kathleen that the thing killed in daylight, and we heard someone say light doesn't help." So yeah, but what do we do? She doesn't want to go on. "Tell both, and then they need to know above all." "Spill it." All right, so everybody's saying, okay, we're going to tell them in front of both of them, because she doesn't seem to want to be on her own with you. She has trusted you enough to let you loose, but she's not going to voluntarily put herself in a private situation where you could kill her. So you say, "Listen, while I was down there, I overheard something. Now, I'm going to need you guys to tell me exactly what you tell Kathleen, because memory is fallible, and I think although Apis has 104 synapses currently firing, you might be able to remember everything that was said, but you might get some things wrong, and those things make a difference. So I need you to tell me exactly what Apis says." "Listen, we were woken by voices outside of the cellar. It was when you had left. I think it was you." He turned to Darren. "You'd left for something, probably." And he says, "I left to attend Warren's funeral." "Yes. We were woken by voices outside the cellar. We heard someone talking to a guard when you weren't there, and they said that the light doesn't help." What do you mean? Who was it?" "Look, we were here, we tried to sleep, but there was a change of guard, and then another person came. 2 people were talking. Who was it? Who was it? Who came?" "Do you tell?" They also said that this was all the other person's fault. It might have been Mosh, but I'm not 100% sure." Her eyes flick to Darren and back to you. "Was Mosh here?" she says to Darren, and he says, "Yes, I left him in charge when I went to Warren's funeral." "So you heard Mosh talking to somebody?" "It was hard to make out. The person had the same sort of accent as Mosh does. I've spoken to him out back on Colton's farm." "Right. I didn't hear who the other person was, but they said that the person I think might have been Mosh said that they had embraced their darkness. They spoke of the guard giving into one's true nature and threatened to hurt their family if they didn't stop. They gave them a time limit to set things right, or they would hunt down all of their loved ones." Mosh was saying this, or the guard was saying this? Because the only other guard I was at, in fact Cliffhanger was there as well. All 3 of the guards were at the funeral. They said something threatening. They discussed about guilt. After I heard them talking, someone else came and asked what happened to the torch, and the guard said he dropped it and it went out. Who did you relieve? Did you relieve Mosh? She says to Darren, and he says, "No. When I got back from the funeral, no one was guarding. I made a note to talk to Mosh after about it, but the cellar was still locked from the outside, and Apis was still locked within, so I assumed that he'd just wandered off." Who did you leave watching me? And he says, "I left Mosh watching you when I went to the funeral. No one else was here." There was another voice arrived, a third voice. They arrived and said, "What's going on here?" And then the person who sounded like Mosh said, "I dropped the torch and it went out." Mosh sounded like he knew who it was, and the person who he was talking to was the culprit. She's very interested in what you have to say about all of this. Is there anything else that you guys remember from the conversation that went down? I remember that they said the other person didn't say much. It was mainly just the person who sounded like Mosh that was talking, and they said the light won't help. Whoever Mosh was talking to sounded like a man and was calling himself a monster. The important point is that whoever it was knows that the light isn't stopping them. People think they're safe in the light, but it won't help. The important point is Mosh seems to know who it is, and she seems to have heard enough of this, and she says, "We need to find him." She turns to start walking back into the town, and Darren asks, was he there?" And she turns and says, "What, where?" And he says, "With Terry. Was Mosh in the building?" And she says, "No, he wasn't. I didn't see him anyway." You suddenly think to ask, "Who's with Edith right now?" And she says, I left Quentin with Edith." Quentin and Joe were both with Edith, and you don't know the people, but apparently she does. Alright, so you need to find Mosh, I guess. Mosh sounds like you knew it was, and the person who he was talking to was the culprit. Listen, I think Mosh knows what's going on here and knows what's happening if they're not themselves responsible. What can we do? What can we do that would help? Do you want us to come with you to try and find Mosh? Do you want us to split up, cover more ground, try and find him? Do you have any horses? I need Mel. I think I don't want to underestimate. I don't want to understate how useful she is in a fight. She can help. If we're fighting things, she can help. I can get to her and get back within an hour if you lend me a horse. If we are, I'm going to put that as a poll, as a decision to be made by you guys. Do we want to push to go get Mel? If you do so, and you are successful at persuading them to give you a horse, then you can probably ride like Billy-O and get there and back again within an hour. But you'll be out of the town proper within an hour, and whatever the town are dealing with will be dealing with it without you for an hour. So the plus side is you can get Mel. The downside is you'll be away from the town for an hour of the night. The decision is yours to be made. Push to go get Mel, ? Yes or no? 3 minutes. So we say, listen, we need to stay in pairs at the very least. We need to stick around each other. Don't split up. How long has it been since Tari died? And she says, like a few minutes. I came almost straight here once we found that there was nothing in the room with him and he was in the same sort of position. As she's talking, you can see a bunch of, like a crowd that starts to erupts. You can hear an eruptive crowd as a noise as the front door of the tavern down the road opens up, and a crowd spills out into the streets with people leading the way with torches on all sides, kind of paranoid, pushing back the darkness as the rest of the crowd starts to come out, and between them are holding like a sheet-covered corpse, and starts moving it down the street towards the other end of town, which you can now see is like a smouldering remains of what was a funeral pyre an hour or two ago. An hour's walk, could we not divide? It's an hour's walk both ways, Wraith. So that's why I said you can get there and back within an hour on a horse, including the time there to actually get Mel and persuade her to wake up and come with you. We send someone else to get her. Nobody else is going to want to go on their own for a 2 hours round trip into the darkness. What time is it right now? You ask that. What time is it? I don't know how long I was down there, and she says it's the middle of the night. It's late. It's like, how long till sunrise? And she says, I don't know, maybe 6 hours. We repay our respects to Warren. We ask that, can I pay my respects to Warren? And she looks at Darren and back to you, I suppose. And she starts to walk that way, being that the most of the crowd are actually heading that way as well. It doesn't make too much of a difficulty to go with them, to go with you to where the crowd are going anyway. Could give someone something of ours Mel would recognise and hope she understands a call for help. We could, yeah. If we can persuade someone else to go, she might be able to come back with us, with that person. We haven't regained our spells. Nope, we haven't finished a long rest yet. Alright, I'm just going to roll for something behind the screen, as it were. I just need to set a DC for it. Okay. Push to go get Mel. 82% of people are saying no, we're not going to push it. We ask her for this, she says, no, I'm sorry, I can't spare the horses or the manpower. The reason I untied you was to be around the town to help us if one of these things comes back. So Mel hasn't come looking for us since we didn't come back before dark. Yeah, but she's also resting, remember? So if she sets off, then she ruins her day of rest. You said one of these things. Is there more than one of them? And she says, we think so, yes. The timing between leaving Edith's and getting to Paul would have been quick if it was the same thing. It could just be one thing acting alone, but it's hard to know. People's suspicion and paranoia is ramping up in the darkness, and so people are proclaiming to have seen shadows moving apropos of nothing, moving on their own. And so if all accounts are to be believed, there are multiple of these things, but if we dismiss many of the accounts as paranoia, it is still possible that there's only one. At the moment, I think it's safer that we act under the assumption that there are multiple. How is Edith? We say, and she says, Edith's recovering. She's resting. There are people watching over her, and the lights are being replenished in her room. Whenever the oil gets low, they are being replaced. She goes silent for a second, and you say, but if the lights don't help? And she sort of resolutely says, I think we should check on Edith. So you're halfway to the funeral pyre. Do you want to continue to the funeral pyre and pay respects to Warren and see the remains of what is left of his body? After it's been mostly burned, it'll be mostly skeleton and ash. Or do you want to go with and check on Edith? Or do you want to set off and search around the town trying to find Mosh? Edith first. Edith. Everybody's saying Edith. All right. So you say, I agree, let's check on Edith. And so the two of you, she turns to Darren and says, Darren, inform the mayor of what the decisions I've made so far regarding Apis. And then she and you set off towards Edith's place while Darren goes to intercept the crowd of people, among which you can see the mayor. Edith then try and find Mosh. So you quickly make it across the very small village to the front of the apothecary's house, still with the broken door hanging off its hinges to the side. The glass that was smashed from the front door is been swept away. But you wander inside. You can see that there are two people downstairs. There would be a couple of people you don't recognise, a couple of humans. And then upstairs, you set off past them and head upstairs, and you can see that the bedroom door is wide open and it's very well illuminated inside. You can see that there are two more humans inside there as well. One of which you possibly recognise. You've probably met him a couple of times. You recognise him as the butcher, but you don't really know him by name. You don't have a lot of. There's a couple of times you've like sold your hunts to this guy. Maybe you've sold some rabbits when you've caught more than you can eat yourself. You've sold some extra meat to him. You recognise him as the butcher and put two and two together. She said she left Quentin in charge. He's probably Quentin. The woman that's with him is rather thin and not like supernaturally so, but just like naturally quite a thin lady. And from what Kathleen said before, this is probably Joe, whoever Joe is. You walk into the room and see that it's as you left it. There's the duvet has been covered, like folded all the way back down to the feet, and just a thin sheet is over the body of Edith. From this angle, you don't see her chest rising or falling, but Kathleen quickly asks the other two, "Any word? Any change?" And they say, No, she's still sleeping. Have you checked her? She's still. And Quentin says, I've checked. I check her periodically. She's still sleeping. She's still breathing. Would you mind and be my guest? And he steps away, and she walks over and puts her hand right in front of the nose. She's still breathing. She hasn't woken? No. Did anybody leave the house? Which house? This house? Edith's house? Warren is already dead. We can't help him. Check Edith and then search for Mosh. Yeah, maybe. Would more Prince Salve? Do you think more Prince Salve would help? You say, picking up the pottle, the half used pottle that you used on her chest earlier. And she says, it might. I don't know how that stuff works. It works every few hours, so by the time since I last applied it, you said it's like the middle of the night, right? And she says yes. It'll probably be time to apply another in case. She says, well, I suppose it can't hurt. And so you pull back the covers, and you can see her frail body, very, very emaciated and weak. And you apply some more of this Prince Salve to her chest and around her throat and things. You can see some of this peeking up through her clothing is the tips of this, what was it called? Not Leidenfrost. Liechtenstein. It wasn't Liechtenstein. I can't remember. You know the one I'm talking about, this lightning effect. It's poking up through the Lichtenberg, thank you. Lichtenberg, not Liechtenstein. Lichtenberg figure, thank you. You can see the effects of this Lichtenberg necrosis happening around, but it seems to be weak. It seemed to have weakened. The darkness around her eyes weakened when you cast Cure Wounds on her. And when you apply this Prince Salve, it doesn't seem to affect the Lichtenberg figure. You don't know if it has any effect or not, but it doesn't have any instant effect. After applying this, you get the sense that her body is warm as well. Like when you're applying this material, when you're applying this salve, their body does feel like it's got warm blood in it. She is surviving. It's just the heartbeat is quite weak, and the pulse is really weak. You're very careful around the tissue paper skin to make sure that you're not causing bruising. Even in the very light places where you are rubbing, you are seeing some bruising happening just from basically just placing your hand on her body. But eventually you cover her back up with a sheet. There were two pots. Yeah, you had a full pot. You had a full pot and a half-used pot now. You've applied like three servings to her, 2 at once, just like to try and maximize the effect, and then 1 more now. So one of them is half empty. It's got only 3 uses left, and another one is full. You can stick it back in your pocket if you want. Put a yes in the chat if you want to grab the full pot and put it in your pouch. Technically stealing it, but circumstances dictate that you might be okay with that. Put a no, obviously, if you're not okay with taking it. Slightly more yeses than nos. If no one needs it by the end of the night, we can always put it back, potentially. I'll put it to a poll because a few people are in different minds about it. We don't want to be caught stealing it, so obviously stealing it, you're not going to be like slipping it into the pocket as if you're stealing in case she catches you, but you just take it and put it in your bag, just like straight out there in the open. Take it and say you're taking it and why. Yep. So if we take it, we'll take it and say why we're taking it. Taking it in case someone needs it. Tell them why. Yep. It's stealing because it's not ours. We're not reclaiming it. It's not ours to take. It doesn't belong to us. So taking it without the owner's permission is by definition stealing. But it might be that it's like you might be morally okay with that because of the circumstances, like somebody might need it and the owner is not in a position to give you the permission. In the meantime, while we're deciding on whether or not we're going to take a pot, she quietly takes Quentin and Joe off to the other side of the room, still in the same room as you, and says, listen, I need you both to be vigilant, extra vigilant. We have reason to believe that maybe the light, it might not be quite as helpful as we thought. The eyes go wide. Quentin seems quite scared. We don't know for sure yet, but we think that there's something we don't know about this yet. So just be extra vigilant. Do you have personal weapons? Quentin sort of pats his hip and you can see that there's like somewhere between a dagger and a short sword hanging by his hip. And Joe sort of nods, but she doesn't tell you what her personal weapons is. And Kathleen says, right, well, just be ready with them. Also, have you seen Mosh around recently? I'm going to roll to see if they have. Oh, look at that. 007. Quentin looks at Joe and back at Kathleen and says, "Ah, you have? Yeah, he were down the back," and he points to the window. She goes over to the window and says, "Well, where was he?" And he says, "We noticed he was sort of creeping. He were kind of like he was doing something weird. He were doing something weird, like it were drawing suspicion to me. I noticed it out of the corner of my eye because I saw movement and there wasn't darkness with it. There's been a couple of people coming round here. With torches, just like patrolling the town with torchlights. So you see the torchlight coming, you look out the window, you see him coming. But I saw movement and he wasn't carrying a torch, he was just moving in the darkness on his own." Where was he going? Looked like he was looking for something. He just sort of had himself in this kind of ready stance as he were walking. A ready stance? Yeah, it's like he was just he was looking for something as he was walking through, and he just walked past. Where did he go? Just walked past, like that way, out of sight. I couldn't see him anymore. How long ago was this? About, he looks at Joe, just says, about 20 minutes? 20 minutes. You chime up. Did it look like you were searching or hunting? He looks across at you and says, "I'd say hunting." Before we turn to leave, with Kathleen seeing this is definitely worth telling everybody about, Joe chimes in with, What was the scream? Kathleen turns and says, Tarry was found dead. And she... and Quentin goes pale. No. What were it? And she says, he went to bed and his lantern was extinguished. He went on his own. And Quentin exclaims, stupid fucking pillock. He were always so goddamn headstrong. Doing shit on his own. Yeah, well, let's not speak ill of the dead. And Kathleen turns and leaves. Are there footprints where he was seen? Potentially. You can go around the back of the house now and check for footprints if you want. We are quite good at tracking. Yes, we are. Before we leave the house, then we turn to Quentin and Joe and say, stick together as much as possible. And he nods as if to say, like, you don't need to fucking tell me twice. And so we head down through the front of the shop, where we meet Kathleen speaking to the other two, and she's telling them the same thing: stick together, stay vigilant, keep the lights on as much as possible, but know that it's not an infallible safety measure. Keep your weapons on you. And one of them, you arrive just as one of them saying, like, I don't have a weapon. And she says, there's a whole kitchen full of utensils. You grab the biggest knife you can and just hold on to it. So what do you guys want to do? Do we want to try and track Mosh from around the back of the house? We're try and track him down. Track Mosh. Try and track Mosh. Alright. Don't engage. Track him, but don't engage. Alright. So that's what we're gonna do then. A lot of people having differing opinions on whether or not Mosh is the bad guy here. He said they wanted them to stop, did he, Wraith? Interesting if you go back and listen to the wording he used. Can we make any guesses about where he was going? So Apis leaves the front of the shop with Kathleen and says, I think we need to track him. And Kathleen agrees. She is going to come with you because of the buddy system that seems to be in place. You can see the crackling of fire down, like from the place where you are down the short street to sort of where it opens up onto the town square. You can see light being diffused from the town square. Seemingly they've got the funeral pyre going for Terry. But you and Kathleen turn and walk into the darkness behind the house. Kathleen quickly relights a torch, gets it going, because although you have dark vision, it's always good to have this torch. That general idea, Rob, paraphrased. Well, phrasing's important, Wraith. Phrasing's important. You walk around the back of the house to where her herb garden was, Edith's herb garden, and you start looking for tracks. I'm going to roll a survival check on your part. You are not in the forest, so you don't get your super duper ranger ability with it. It's just going to be a survival. It's going to be a +4, isn't it? So survival check is... survival is this one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, boy. A 13. So you've got the bright light of Kathleen's torch nearby as you search. It has not rained today, so there's not wet mud around. There are scuff marks in the dirt, but nothing that would really constitute a track. You look up at the window from where you are, and you see Quentin's face looking down at you. And you gather from where he was looking and said he disappeared that Mosh was going parallel to the town. So he was going along the back side of the town. If you remember from previous episodes, I described Edith's house as being kind of on the edge of the town, the edge of the ridge that Shad Ridge is built on. And so he, instead of going perpendicular to the town and down the ridge towards the Fair Woods, he was going parallel to the town apparently and walking his way along the backs of the houses. The torch is blind night vision. Not if you've got your torch behind your head and you're actually holding it like a normal person. If you're holding it like they do in movies, like out in front of you like this, then yeah, you're staring into light, so you can't see anything behind it. But if you're holding it behind you like a normal person, then it's illuminating everything in front of you and you can see just fine. Was Mosh heading towards where Terry died, or away? It was from your geography. It would probably be kind of perpendicular to it. Like he could have circled around and gone into the town and still gone that way. It wouldn't be a direct route. He wasn't going directly away or towards it. No worries, Spates. They need battery-operated torches. Get good, Shedridge. Get good. Middle Ages, they need an artificer to make some battery-operated things. So, unfortunately, you can continue in the direction that he was going, but you don't have tracks to follow. So, having nothing else to go on, you do so. You continue on in that direction that he was travelling. And you're looking and you can see that there's like back gardens, a lot like Edith's back garden, just large lawns. Some of them fenced in, most of them fenced in, but some not. Some people have got like deck chairs and things out. Other people have just got like herb gardens. Some people have done nothing with their back garden. It just leads straight up to their door and there's nothing there. But eventually the houses stop and you get to kind of the other corner of the town, and looking down to your left now, you can see the entrance to the town square and the open fire that is crackling away. From the distance that you are, you can probably not smell the cooking of human, but you can probably guess that there's definitely a body being cooked over there. Does Kathleen know if anyone refused to stay with the group that would be in this direction? We ask her that. Did anybody refuse to stay with the group? Has anybody been like acting shifty through the night? Has anybody left on their own? And she says there's been a few people who are thinking that we're overreacting about stuff. I think they might think differently now that Terry's been discovered. Everything else has been discovered on the outskirts and people haven't seen the bodies. It was when Warren's funeral happened that people started to take it seriously and start to crowd together. During Warren's funeral, understandably, there were quite a few people who had to leave. I know that John and Clarissa had to leave because Clarissa wasn't enjoying the sight of Warren's body, of course. Sally and Franklin had to leave as well. They left because they didn't want to be around. It's understandable. Nobody, I didn't notice. There's a lot of people for me to notice and to keep track of, but I don't think there was anyone else who left. That's one of the reasons that I went to get you in the first place. I have too many people to keep track of, too much to do. Did they come back? I personally haven't seen John and Clarissa since, but I saw Franklin and Sally. They came back a little bit after the funeral. Do any of them live on this side of town? I think Sally's house is on this side of town. I'm not exactly sure where she lives. She keeps to herself quite a lot. She's quite a shy girl. Hearing that, we head back around to the front of the houses and start to look and say, do you know if any of these are familiar? Sally's house or anything? We need to check on them. She doesn't recognise the houses. She doesn't know which one would be Sally's. You can hear the sounds of people talking and weeping that's drifting to you over the sound of now that you're slightly closer to the town square. What do you want to do, guys? You're a bit of an impasse. What to do? Is there anyone around to ask where her house is? You can go to the town square and ask where her house is. Like, there's plenty of people in the town square. Most people are crowded now. Apis doesn't know where Sally lives. Apis has never actually officially met Sally yet. Epis went to Franklin's place earlier today, before all this was an issue, and Franklin said, "Hey, you should go check in on Sally before she finishes work." And then you went to the Carlton's farm instead, because Franklin was like, "You should go meet her." What does Kathleen want us to do? We should defer to her. That's a good point. She says, I don't know Mosh very well. How much do you know him? Where would he go? And you say, I don't know him at all. I only met him today. And she says, yes, but you're like him. You're an outlander. You stick to the wilds, the wilderness. You think more like him than I do. Where would you go in this situation? It depends on whether I was guilty or not. Like, if I was, like, I wouldn't put myself in a situation where I looked this guilty. And her eyebrows kind of raise at that. Yeah, I suppose that can't be true. Sneaking around on your own though in the darkness, that just seems creepy right now. I don't know where I would go. I don't know what he would be doing. Would he be trying to escape? Would he be trying to hunt? Is he looking for another victim? If he was in this area though 20 minutes ago, we need to start searching these buildings, I think. I don't really know. Maybe some panpipes would help. Go to the town square and ask if anybody's seen Mosh. And if not, Sally, where Franklin lives. If not Sally, where Franklin lives, so we can ask him. You do know where Franklin lives because he's a friend of yours, and he lives behind the bakery, which is more towards the middle of town. Any doors or windows that are open right now? So you're looking up at the doors and windows of the front of these houses. You don't see any that are open. They seem to have all been closed. Most of them have their shutters closed over the windows as well. If you play Flight of the Bumblebee and the panpipes, they'll rush to us. Maybe. What was he checking? All the places where the victims have been found. Maybe. Checking the crime scenes. He could be here. Could be there. Could be at the different crime scenes. Because if he went to Edith's. Yeah, so Apis says this is... Well, it could be that he was checking out the crime scenes. Like he checked out Edith's and then maybe he's going to go to Paul's place. Maybe he's going to go to the place where Warren was. And she says, if he's out there... I don't want to follow him out there. I'd rather stay with the town. The town are vulnerable. We need to be here to protect them. I agree with that. And then she says, Tari though. Tari was here. Maybe we should check out Tari. The place where Tari was. Mosh could be innocent looking for clues. I don't know. Maybe let's check on John and Clarissa. Yep, John and Clarissa haven't been seen since they left after his funeral. If he's enjoying playing with us, he'll be hunting, maybe. Although, if he was just checking out the places that had been victimized, then he wouldn't approach like that, surely, stealthily like that. From a distance. You'd approach normally like a... I don't know. Well, maybe. Unless he's responsible. I don't know. We need to find him, I think. Let's assume Mosh knows we suspect him, which he might not. We could potentially find more clues at Terry's. Is Paul's place this direction? Paul's place is on the about 10 minutes walk outside of town. It is an old farm that was converted into a barracks. So what do you guys think we should do right now? We are not quite on the town square. There's no one around us because all the other town folk are gathered either in the town square for the funeral of Terry or in the tavern of the Lucky Loot, places where you can keep it well lit and have protection from volume. What do we want to do? We're on the outskirts now. We're on the back edge of town, along one of the rows of houses. What is your plan? Use someone as bait, have people hidden around waiting. That could be an option. Has the mayor asked anyone else for help? Has the mayor asked anyone else for help? She says, like what? Like, what sort of like has he asked anyone to help out? And she says, well, I mean, the mayor's putting everyone to help out. Everyone's on edge. Everyone's working. Everyone's trying to keep vigilant, if that's what you mean. Like trackers or like protectors, more knights. As I said, the mayor's put William and who else did I say? William and Carl. They've been put on duties to try and help out. John was helping out as well. We don't have many people, many capable fighters in the town. That's part of the reason why Paul was working on the barracks, is that it was quite a deficit of the town to have very few fighters and knights. It's the whole point of why Paul was working on it in the first place. And the more I think about it, the more I think that that's probably why Shadridge was chosen as a target, is because it was an easy target. There were no knights here. There were very few knights here. Even I'm not stationed in Shadridge. I'm on loan here from Fondurg. Predators of humans aren't necessarily psychopaths. They're living in the way that their nature dictates. They don't necessarily enjoy the carnage. Not necessarily. If anyone's going to be bait, it's going to have to be ours. They're certainly not going to sacrifice someone they're confident is innocent. So we're going with the bait idea? What's the idea? What are the options, guys? What do you want to do? Give me something to work on here. We're just standing here and there's not enough. There's no way forward for me to go. I can't move the story along. You guys need to sort of decide on what sort of thing to do. Somebody suggested setting up a trap using bait. Using a person as bait, either yourself or somebody else. Put them like somewhere that's like on their own. Ooh, look at this person going off on their own, but they're actually secretly being followed by everybody else. And then if they get attacked, everybody else can jump out and attack. That could be an option. You can just stay with the group all night. That could be your plan. Like, just stay in the town square, keep everybody safe. Hope that morning comes before any other monster comes. That could be your option, plan going forward. Search for Mosh, like continue searching actively for Mosh. That could be an option. Maybe the light isn't helping. Maybe it's hurting, casting the very shadows that are hurting us. Maybe. Go to the crowd, ask about Clarissa and John, see if anybody's seen them. Did the barn finally stop burning? We're not at the barn, so we don't know, but presumably yes. It's been several hours. Mosh said something about paying for the past. Can we work out what that is? Otherwise, do we have any idea what the motivation for all of this is? We don't. Mosh is the key to a lot of this. Suggest being bait to Kathleen, because maybe she might not want to do it. We say, listen, I'm just spitballing ideas here. Feel free to shoot it down, but I'm thinking, what if we try and lure this thing out of hiding, just so we know a better idea of what we're fighting? Could we have some sort of a bait situation? Like if you put me into a situation where I'm on my own and this thing's likely to attack. I'm quite capable at looking after myself. I've looked after myself for 50 odd years now. And she sort of squints her eyes and I'm saying, like, don't actually put me on my own, but make it look to this thing like I'm on my own. Maybe I'm just spitballing ideas here. And she says it's definitely an idea, and an idea that I've thought of as well. I'm loath to put anyone in danger right now until we know more about what we're dealing with. And I know it's a bit of a catch-22. Obviously, putting someone in as bait, we would learn a little more about what we're dealing with. But what if we're too late? What if it manages to take the bait and get away, and we don't learn any more about what we're dealing with? We've now lost you to the darkness as well. We notice that from the way that she's talking, she's starting to seem like she's trusting us a lot more in the choice of words that she's using about us. Need to find the mayor. The mayor would be in the town square. Continue the search for Mosh. Alright, I think those are the options. We need to put this to a poll, because otherwise we're getting nowhere. Set a bait trap, go to this town square, go to the inn, or search for Mosh. Does it make sense for us to be the bait? If it's Mosh, we overheard him try to get us out of trouble. So would he attack us? Did we? When did he try and get us out of trouble, Dazel? Run around yelling Mosh's name. What does the magic rope do? So the magic rope beneath us is a rope of commanding. We can give it a command word and it will rise up and attach itself to something. It will jump out and try and wrap around someone. It will heal itself if we cut it. A couple other magic things. It's basically just rope, but we can command it to tie itself up. What if they show no interest in the bait and go somewhere else? You left someone wide open. Yeah, potentially. If we think it's human shaped, can we put up barriers around the town to make it harder for the monster to get close? Yeah, maybe. We need to protect the townsfolk. We say, have we checked on all the people who live alone? And she says, yes, that was one of the first things that we did. We managed to get everybody out of their houses, and that's why actually Mosh was here in the first place. We sent a messenger very quickly to the Colton's farm. And the Coltons and their farmhands and Mosh are all here. In fact, Mosh arrived far before the Coltons and their farmhands. Like a good 30 minutes or so before them. So he must have either walked very fast or he set off before getting the message. Alright. Apis is very divided on what to do now, with only 37% of the vote coming in as the majority here. 37% of the vote want to search for Mosh, while 29% of the vote want to set a bait trap. 23% wanted to go to the town square, and 11% wanted to go to the inn. So searching for Mosh seems like the thing that Apis is. They're very indecisive in this moment about what to do, but Apis decides Mosh is the key to this, to knowing what at the very least, even if Mosh isn't behind it, Mosh knows who is behind it at the very least. So we need to find Mosh. So we're going to start looking for Mosh. She agrees, Kathleen agrees, and she's going to set off with us to try and find Mosh. So you set out in search of Mosh, not going to the inn nor the town square, where you assume there is safety among numbers. There are enough people, the majority of the remainder of this town, the existing members of this town, all who are able-bodied enough to do so, are either in the town square or in the inn. And so you hope that there's safety in numbers as you and Kathleen stick to the outskirts of town searching for Mosh. If he indeed was, when everybody else was elsewhere, he was in the shadows hunting, it seems like in the shadows hunting is probably where you'll find him. So I'm going to roll a survival check on, basically this is your hunting ability, to see how well you can hunt him. This is going to be a check survival, which is this one. A 17 total. With a 17, actually I'll go with advantage because Kathleen is there to help you. So once more, and take the higher of the two. Alright, so the 17 is the higher of the two. It's not bad. It's not bad. You don't have anything to track, but you try and put your mind in his position. You've seen him, you know what he wears, you know what he speaks like, you know kind of how he moves. You know what it's like to be an outlander. You've spent your whole life living off the land, living in the forest. Everybody has their own reasons for doing it. That alone does not make him suspicious. But you try and put yourself in his position. You have some practice doing this because it's what you've been doing to cast Hunter's Mark. It's similar to how you did Primeval Awareness as well. So you try and empathize with his position. What would he be doing? He's trying to hunt down specific creatures. The loved ones, he said, the people you care about, of the person who needs to make something right. And so hunting among the houses is the best thing you can do at this stage. So you set off, working your way along the houses, looking in windows as you go, trying to find any sense of movement, any indication of where these people might be, these people who might be on their own from the rest of the crowd, who might have wronged him in some way that needs to make it right. Is he punishing the town for someone's misgivings, something that someone else has done to him? You're thinking a lot about his state of mind as you walk. With a 17, it's a 17 survival. It doesn't take you too long, maybe about half an hour or so of walking, before you're sure you hear something. And I'm going to make a perception check to see how much of it you hear. With a 13. With a 13, you hear the sounds of someone straining and resisting something. It sounds a little bit more like the sounds you heard when Warren died, except there's no clashing of weaponry. There's just someone struggling against something up ahead. It's a little bit you're closer towards the middle street of town, but far enough away from the town square that none of the residual funeral pyre light is reaching this area. You make your way in the direction of the sounds as quickly as you can, and your foot hits cobblestone as you step onto the main street. And looking out along this street in front of this building, you don't have time to take in what this building is that you're standing in front of. But just to the other corner of this building, the further corner from you, you see Mosh. He is wearing his usual his leather armor that I described before, with his sort of poppered down the side, and he's standing in a very defensive a fighting stance, and he seems to be jabbing out at things. He seems to be jabbing out at something that's hidden from the other side of the wall. He's definitely in the midst of a fight, and you can see, even through the darkness, there are oil lanterns lit on the street light behind you, which is casting like a dim glow over the whole street. Even with the darkness, because of your dark vision, you can see that up his neck are spidering just indications of the Lichtenberg's figure, the sort of spiderweb lightning type necrosis that's happening across his neck. He seems to be a little bit weaker than you last saw him, but not by much. He seems to be holding his own against whatever the hell is that you can't see around the corner of this house. And I'm going to roll initiative for you and take you over to the battle map. So this is what you see here. You see yourself and Kathleen have entered the street. You can see the street, the front of the house, the building that you're standing next to is here. And if I am careful about doing this, you see just ahead over this way, you see Mosh, who is fighting something in this space here, but because of the corner of the building, you can't see what it is. So 17 initiative for us. I'm going to roll for all other members of the party here. Oh, no shit. Okay, that's going to be interesting then. And then finally... Okay. Let me move you all into your relative positions then. So, at the top of the round, we're definitely in an initiative sequence, even though we're not sure exactly what's being fought or what is fighting. You can see Mosh is fighting something that we can't see around the corner of this building. He seems to be jabbing, but in like a sort of an overhand kind of downwards fashion, instead of like out and punching kind of fashion. He doesn't seem to be using weaponry, which surprises us. The first thing, Apis is going to be up first, so if you want to be in with a chance to decide what Apis is going to do on the first round of combat, you're going to type the following word into the chat, and that will enter you for a draw. The following word will be Mosh! ! MOSH. So So we don't know whether Mosh is on our side or not at this stage. You can't see any other assailants. You can only see you, Kathleen, and Mosh. And you're all and this whole situation is considered dim light, except for the squares immediately around where you can see the lights on this board. So like this is a lantern and this is a lantern, like street lights. This is a lantern that's lit on the front of this shop. You haven't investigated what building this is yet, so you don't know what you're around. That's pretty much it. You've got the gist of it. So let's roll and see who is going to go. 3, 2, 1. Law 1771. All right, Law says, let's move towards Mosh some. Is it possible for us to get close enough to see what Mosh is fighting? If we take like an arc, if we go in this general direction, let's go there. If we sort of go over this way, then obviously we'll use our 25 feet to get to here. And then from here, we've got a better angle of what he's fighting. So that's probably what we would... That's the route we would take if we wanted to see what he's fighting. But if we wanted to go directly towards him, we'd obviously get closer. We'd get to about there. But we might have a better chance of seeing what he's fighting, but it might still be a little bit hard. So is your priority get closer to him, or is it see what he's fighting? Let's see what he's fighting. Awesome, Law. All right, so Apis decides as soon as they get within range to see that Mosh is fighting something, they look at Kathleen and say, what the hell's that? And then they move their 25 feet. We'll go to here. And then from here, I'm going to make a perception check on your behalf as a free action. With a 21. All right, with a 21, you rush over under the street lights. You're fairly well illuminated. I'll say that this whole sort of pavement on this side of the street is on the verge of bright to dim light. You run up as you look on, as you sort of jump up onto the curb and look over to what he's fighting. You can see that the street light behind him the street light behind him is casting his shadow in a long shadow along this sort of part here. And there's another street light you can imagine just off of the screen here, that's seemingly casting his shadow up against this wall here. The streetlight that's casting his shadow long up against this wall is seemingly what he's fighting. The shadow itself, he is standing in front of his shadow, and you can see his shadow moving as he moves, boom, and seems to box his shadow. He seems like he's shadow boxing until the moment that his shadow moves without him. You can see that his body shifts to the side to take a big swiping punch, and his shadow doesn't. Part of it does. It seems like two people's shadows are being overlaid over the top of one another up the side of this brick wall. One of them moves to the side with him, but the other one is much darker and has this sort of smoky element around its edges. And that one doesn't. That one seems to move to the other side as his fist comes in to try and swipe and claw. It seems to move to the side, and then it reaches out, and it seems to get three-dimensional from the wall, until you see that standing next to him, swiping him, up against the boundary of this wall, almost two-dimensional as a figure, is this lithe, shadowy figure. So, Law, that was your movement. You still have an action and a bonus action. What do you want to do? With your action and your bonus action, there are a few things that you can do with your bonus action. One of which is swapping out a weapon that you already have drawn. You currently don't have any weapons drawn, so it doesn't cost anything to take a weapon out. It only costs a bonus action if you've already got a weapon in your hands and you want to put that away to get a different weapon out. Then it costs a bonus action. So one of the bonus action things you can do, in fact it's the only one that I can imagine you can do right now. I can't think of any others. Not saying you should do it, but one of the things you could do is you could use your bonus action to do Planar Warrior, which gives you an extra d8 damage and turns all of the damage into Force type, which is different types of damage. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, Force is one of those types. It's like magic type damage. Can we shoot an arrow at the lamp to possibly put it out, the lamp, and maybe help Moss's shadow disappear? You could do, yeah, if you want to. If you shoot the oil lamp that is casting Moss's shadow up against the wall, it will make it easier to distinguish which is his shadow from which is not. Is that what you want to do? Unfortunately, Spirit Goblin, we don't have Fireball. It will cast more darkness over the side of the house, and it will definitely remove Moss's shadow from the equation. So then it will be very clear at that point which of the shadows that he is fighting. Let's try that. All right. So as an action, Apis sees the two shadows kind of intermingling. It's very hard to work out which one he's fighting and how he's fighting a shadow that's up against a wall. And so Apis, in the moment, thinks, "I'm gonna make this easier to decide which is which." And with dark vision, Apis knows that the darkness won't hinder them too much anyway. So they draw an arrow out and take off a shot. I'm gonna make an attack. Attack longbow to hit. That's going to be an 11 to hit. The 11 will hit the streetlight's AC, and it's going to do 5 points of damage, which will be enough to extinguish it. So we turn and we fire off an arrow, which shatters through the streetlight. Kathleen, the knight here, looks over in astonishment and confusion. "What are you doing?" she shouts out. All right. You've got a bonus action left to do something with, Law, but I can't think of anything else that you can do with a bonus action. Do you shout anything? Do you shout anything as like a free action to Kathleen when she shouts, "What are you doing?" Do you inform her of your plan? What the plan was? Yeah, we tell her the plan. So we shout out, "Mosh is fighting a shadow. I'm trying to extinguish the light, the source of shadow. It might make it weaker." So we shout that out. That's about as much as we can get out on our turn in a very short time in combat. And then we move on in the initiative order. The next up is not yet on the initiative order, so I will skip over their turn and we'll go to, I think the next up was the allies. There we go. We'll mute Apis and go to allies. Before we start this, I'm going to start the Nightbot giveaway for the next turn. Good job, Law. Well done on that. If you want to be in with a chance of what to do next turn on combat in turn 2, round 2, we'll go keyword !lamp, given that we just smashed an oil lamp. !LAMP. So Kathleen is going to use her movement to go 30 feet forwards. She gets to here, and then she's drawing her weapon as she runs. She draws a longsword out and holds it two-handed, and says, "Mosh, explain yourself. What is happening?" And then she is going to take the ready action. If anybody comes within 5 feet of her, she's going to take an attack at them with her reaction. Mosh turns and sees all of this happening, and he says, "No time to explain. The shadows are behind it all." And that's all he manages to get out in a very short period of time in combat. Then it is out of initiative order. I'm going to go to, this is now Mosh's turn. He's going to make an attack using his stats. Where are your stats, Mosh? Ooh, that's definitely going to hit. Not a lot of damage. I'm going to make a perception check on Apis's behalf to see if you notice something about how Mosh is fighting here. With an 18, your perception is good enough that as you're noticing that he seems to be ducking and weaving and dodging as best he can and fighting, and he's got this sort of boxing stance. He doesn't seem to be using weapons. You do notice that there is a short sword on his hip. You noticed that when you first met him. He has his personal weapons like a ranger. And you've noticed that he's kind of doing this overarching punching situation, which you would think is kind of like telegraphing his punches a little. He's not doing the jabbing forwards. But with an 18 perception, now that you can see him a little better and the light is illuminating from this side still, you can see that as he punches up and round, he's extending his hand. He's not hitting with a closed fist. He's hitting with an open fist, and then closing it up again. He seems to be almost swiping at this shadow, and he does a bit of damage to it. The shadow seems like the second thing you notice as well is that he seems to be attacking this almost two-dimensional shadow against the wall without hitting the wall. As he hits it, the shadow seems to move and shift with it, as if he's moving his fingers through water, and the shadow somewhat ripples a little bit before it forms back to itself. That is Mosh's turn. Then it is... which one's next? I believe it's you guys next. The Shadow. The Shadow then reaches out, and it reaches out for Mosh. Ooh, that's good for Mosh, because that is going to be a miss, I think. Yes, that's definitely a miss. It sort of reaches out, and you see this like almost pseudopod of this. As it ripples, as his hand passes through it, it ripples its form, and then it seems to, in the middle, the ripples get larger and larger until one part of it reaches out, and in that moment, it seems to take the form of a humanoid. It seems to be like a large. It's like the Shadow is being cast starkly in bright light from behind, so it seems like it's a very defined figure all of a sudden. When the ripples stop, it takes this very prominent form of a stocky, well-built human, about 6 feet tall. And then it reaches out as if it's punching for him, and it seems to go three-dimensional in that moment, and like punch for him. He swings and he takes a dodging motion, and it swings over the top of him and prevents, does not strike him. Okay, and then, well, look at that. Okay, even with its stealth modifier, Apis sees something, catches Apis's eye moving in the shadows over here. At the top of these stairs leading into this building, this shop of some kind, there seems to be a person standing there. Apis looks over and sees this person, this humanoid, standing in the doorway. And then it steps out from the shadows, but you realise that it's not a humanoid standing in the shadows. It is part of the shadows. It is a humanoid made of shadows. This humanoid seems to be a lot smaller than the other one. This takes this stark definition as if it's being cast in a silhouette from a bright light right behind a human. But this seems to be someone of around 5'3" and a little bit less stocky built. And it seems to glide down the stairs. And then it reaches here. So we shout out a warning to Kathleen at the moment that we see this figure coming down the stairs, like with a bit of a jog. And we shout out a warning, behind you! And she turns around just in time to see this shadow come right up to her and like almost go for a swipe. Kathleen uses her readied action. She took the ready in case anything came close. So Kathleen is going to take a swipe. That's not going to hit though. Oh, actually, that just will hit. That was just enough. So Kathleen using her two-handed longsword. Ooh, nice. Holy cow, she maxed out the damage too. She turns around, and at the last minute, as this hand reaches out for her of this almost paper, it's like it's made out of black crepe paper as it walks through the air. It reaches out one of its hands to strike Kathleen from the back. And she turns around and brings down, and she takes a step backwards away from the hand and brings down her sword two-handed across the hand, and it seems to slash through it as if it's just cutting through paper, and the shadow is just left with her hand just floating in the air, and then the hand part dissipates away as if it's flash paper that's being burned, and the rest of the shadow seems to shulk back away from Kathleen, and then rounds around to the wall. And seems to flatten itself up against the wall as though it's being cast by one of these shadows and one of these lamps here. It's being cast up against the wall and it's mingling with hers. So that was Kathleen's readied action. This thing is now looking bloodied. It's having a harder time showing it's like keeping its form together. It's showing signs that she definitely did hurt it. But it still has an action. It used its movement to get to her. And then it uses its action with its other hand remaining to reach out and try and strike her. That'll do it. That will do it. So she's going to take some damage. Holy shit, it maxed it. It maxed out the damage. Oh boy. She takes 14 points of necrotic damage as it strikes, as its hand seems to grab her in the neck and pass into her body. And And then as it passes away, she shrieks out in a pain that reminds you of that of Warren. As she shrieks out, it seems like a strangled pain, as it seems to have grabbed her in the throat. And then she seems to have this sort of notion of being drained a little bit. As you watch Kathleen from the light on both sides of you being cast on both sides of her, you can see physically the muscles in her arms seem to wither away in front of your very eyes. That is the Shadow's turn. It is now it's back to the top of the round with Apis. I'm going to turn that one off. I will turn baddies off. There we go. We'll go over to Nightbot and we're going to draw it. You've had enough time to enter now. Mythical Turian, can you make a little note to say that you're in the chat? An emote is fine, something like that. Just to say that you're still here. Yes, awesome. Tell me what you want to do, Mythical Turian. You've had time to think about it now. What do you want to do? Maybe Mosh isn't trying to kill them, hence not using a sword. Maybe. We're going to move and help Kathleen with Planar Warrior. Mythical, are we using our longsword or our longbow to help Kathleen? And where do you want to move? Do you want to move over here to shoot from here? Do you want to move over here to shoot from here? Or do you want to move up next to them and longsword both? Because if we went up here, would be in range of both of these guys, so we'd be able to attack either one. Bow does more damage, just saying. It does. Bow has more chance to hit and does more damage, yep. The longbow with sight between Mosh and Kathleen, gotcha. Alright. So Apis moves the 25 feet over to here, stands between 20 feet rather, to stand between the two, right underneath the streetlight. They are definitively in bright light now. So we get to here where we can see both the bad guys. As if we're assuming that they're bad guys, it's pretty safe to assume that they are. And we're gonna take Planar Warrior. We're gonna use our bonus action to focus on the fear that's within us and accept that fear. We remember the training, if you can call it that the little shit gave us, the little pixie type dude that was in the trees back when we were fighting the displacer beast, and he told us to focus on our energies. It was very unhelpful, but in the moment we discovered that he meant that the prickly sort of sensation down our skin whenever we got into a dangerous adrenaline filled situation, that was tied to the energies of the universe, and it was far from being universal to everyone, as we might have assumed. It may be tied to the fact that we're a Horizon Walker. And so we focus on that fear that we're feeling. We focus on that adrenaline of the fight. We focus on making sure that Kathleen doesn't die when she's in our presence, because if Kathleen and Mosh go down and we're the only one on the scene, there's definitely no talking our way out of it anymore. We focus on all of that in the same moment that we're drawing an arrow from our longbow, from our quiver. We stack it in the longbow, we pull it back, and then we release all of that goosebumpy tingling down our arms into the arrow shaft, and it seems to shift it into the ethereal dimension. As it leaves the bow, the arrow strikes forward, and let's see if it hits. Let's roll an attack with Planar Warrior. So that is going to be a 19 plus 6, that's a 25 to hit. And it does damage of 15. 15 damage. All of which becomes force damage. As the arrow shaft leaves our bow, it seems to cut into the ethereal plane, leaving this sort of conical sound wave behind it, as everything around seems to be turned into grey energy of the ethereal plane for an instant before collapsing back in and forcing even more energy into this arrow. As it strikes forward, it strikes against the side of the wall, but before it hits, it seems to strike at the heart of this creature that is crying out and calling out for Kathleen. As it reaches its hand forwards off of the wall, the arrow seems to strike it through the palm. At that moment, the arrow bursts back into the material plane from the ethereal, bringing with it all of that force energy from the other planes of existence. It seems to cut all the way down the arm and into the body of this shadow, which seems to dissipate against the wall. With your bonus and action, this shadow is no more. I'm going to make a perception check for you. Alright. As it does so, there seems to be a cry of pain from inside. Inside the building somewhere. Can we actually kill a shadow? Cast more light and you cast more shadows. We must kill it with darkness. So shall we sacrifice Mosh or Kathleen? Alright, well done, Mythical Turian. You've used your movement. Technically you've got 5 feet more of movement if you wanted to move anywhere, but you've used your bonus and your action. Are you good? Anywhere you want to move 5 feet? Do you want to move 5 feet towards or away? Any direction? Otherwise, I will draw somebody else, or I will start the draw for somebody else. This one will be... exclamation mark, shadow. Move for the better sight on the shadow Mosh is fighting now. Okay, cool. We use the last of our movement. We've run over there. We dart to one side, and then we use the momentum and dart 5 feet more back this way. Still staying within the bright light of the lamp, but now seeing better on the shadow against the wall. That was Apis's turn. It is now. Let's see. Yeah, now it's happening now. There is a shriek from inside as this shadow against the wall dissipates. And then there is a movement of furniture, and then footsteps up to the window. And at the window, the shutters get thrown open, and you see standing there a hooded figure with the face covered in darkness and shadow, who looks out over the street, looks down at everyone there, and sees you in the bright light and Mosh beneath. And then reaches out their hand. Who are they going for? Mosh is looking damaged. Yeah, Mosh is looking damaged and knows more about the situation than you guys do. The figure in the window reaches out the hand. Seems to conjure a ball of black energy in the hand. And then fires it down towards Mosh. In fact, they fire 2 of them. One after another, very quick. 2 softballs down towards Mosh. The lamp you're under is out. No, the lamp further down the street is out. These 2 lamps are still on. Oh, same number on both, and it might not be enough to hit. No, it is just enough to hit. So with the first, that's a lot. Mosh gets slammed, and not only do they get slammed, but they get pushed 10 feet back from where the attacker threw things from at them in a direct line back and away. And then the next one hits for averages it out and gets pushed another 10 feet back. If I push them off, then I can't grab them again, so I'll just put them down here for now. But they're 20 feet off of this, like basically away at the other side of the street now, as they're getting bam bam slammed by these things. Mosh is now starting to look a little bit bloodied. That was Buddy's number 2, who came to the window. Mosh is not dead. Mosh is now starting to show the signs of being bloodied. Mosh is now below half health. The voice of this creature in the window calls out to Mosh as they do this and shouts, "You meddling piece of shit! Why don't you just die?" It seems to be a feminine voice. Well, it seems to be a masculine voice of a woman. A woman with a very confident and masculine growl to her voice. Not a voice that we remember hearing before. It is now our ally's turn. Kathleen, seeing this thing striking out at her suddenly get extinguished by your arrow, quickly darts over her shoulder and sees that you've attacked it. Puts a little bit more confidence in you now, maybe. And then looks over to this other one that's fighting against Mosh, and goes to attack it when this thing opens and attacks from over there. she realizes she can't do anything from down here against the woman in the window, so she's just going to take over Mosh's position. Yeah, ally will run over to here, boom, and take a strike against the wall. The first one's a nat 20. So that's going to max out that damage, which maxing it out means that'll kill it. Because you max out your damage. Oh, no, wait. Because her strength has been reduced now, which means her attack modifier has been reduced. Her attack and damage. With a nat 20, she's still going to hit, but she now does a max of that much, and then another one of these. So yes, it doesn't kill it. Heavily wounds it, but it's not dead because of her weakened form. You see that she lifts up the sword and brings it down. It's still got some technique behind it, but it's a little bit sloppier now as an attack form, because you can tell that the longsword feels a lot heavier to her than it would have otherwise. Kathleen, however, being a badger, gets 2 attacks per round. So with the second attack, though, with her weakened state, she strikes down first time and it cuts right through the middle and ripples this form of this creature that seems to be towering above her. It's a little bit taller than she is. She cuts it down one way, and then she brings it round and tries to cut it down the other, and it doesn't work. That is her movement. Is she gonna bonus? She hasn't taken any damage yet. So that's... Oh no, she did. She took damage from the necrotic, didn't she? Yeah, so she's going to use her bonus to second wind then, as a fighter. She is going to recover. She's going to recover 11 hit points. Go Kathleen. She sort of like steels herself against it. Come on, let's do this. She's got that fighter technique. That is everything she can do. Mosh is now going to clamber back to his feet, as it were, step back into the fight, and he's going to step back. He's going to use some of his movement to get back into the fight, as it were, and then he shouts up to her, "I don't know what your game is, but I told you I won't let you do this. I don't care who knows my secrets anymore. What you got over me is not anything enough to keep me quiet over what I got over you." And then he is going to run and jump and see if he can grab hold of the balcony on which she is standing. He's going to use his movement, so 20 feet back this way would have pushed him, so 5, 10, so 10 to there, 15, 20, 25, 30. With his movement he manages to get to here. And I'm going to make an athletics check for him, and he is going to try and grab the balcony. It's not the greatest, especially with his slightly weakened state that he's in at the moment. So unfortunately, he reaches up and he grabs the balcony, but his weakened muscles aren't enough to hold on to it, although he gets his fingers in. Oh, actually, no. Although he gets his fingers in, he doesn't manage to hold on to it. I am, however, going to make a check for you to see if you saw something just then. The 14, would that be enough? Yeah, you're paying pretty close attention to what's going on, and it's still well lit from the lights around you. As he grabbed a hold of the balcony, the base of the balcony, and then slipped off, he seemed to tear off chunks of the balcony with him. Like a couple of smaller chunks of wood came away with his hands. It seemed like he had a much stronger grip than he should have, maybe, for a man of his size. He falls back down to the ground. He's starting to look he's wounded still, obviously, and he's panting for breath, but he's still fighting. It seems he's still got some fight left in him. That was his action to attempt that, so he can't now turn and attack this thing. He's going to stay where he is. I think that's everything he can do. It is now on to the other baddies, which is the Shadow. The Shadow here will take a strike. Mosh is the one that it was going for, and he is now back in range. It sort of slithers round the wall a little bit, not enough to leave Kathleen's range. It gets to about like so. It gets like slightly along the wall. More granular movement, that's what I prefer. And it's going to strike out towards Mosh. And remember, if he dies, all the knowledge with him dies too. That is going to be enough to hit. 10 points and 10 plus anything. Where are you? 10 plus 2. 12 points of necrotic damage. As it grabs him, as he falls down, poof, it reaches out and grabs him right in the side of the ribs here, and he seems to call out in pain against it. And you see some of the musculature of his neck seems to wither away a little bit, as some more of this as more of this Lichtenberg figure creeps up his neck and around the back of his head. You can see, well, not that he's turned towards you, but his eyes go a little bit darker. He's now looking on the weak side. He was quite a buff, strong dude when you first met him. He can handle himself athletically. Now he would be below average if you met him now. He wouldn't be like, oh, this guy's emaciated, but he would be notably like, oh, this guy doesn't work out. That is that shadow's turn. You also then see, moving in the shadows, coming around from the side of the building here is another shadow, seemingly walking along the cobblestones, like as if somebody is walking upright. This shadow is walking along the cobblestones flat on the ground, gets to this corner here, and then sets off in a sprint. And as it sprints, it seems to stand up until it's vertical, running along this cobblestones. You see that this one takes the shape of a rather overweight, rotund sort of humanoid, around about the 5'10" mark, and it runs directly towards you. And with its movement, it manages to get to you as well. It runs right into the light, as if the light doesn't seem to bother it too much, and it's going to attack. Ooh, that's definitely going to hit with a 20-something to hit. As this thing runs towards you and strikes out, you take 12 points of necrotic damage as you feel a cold, icy bucket of water splash inside your internal organs. Its hand seems to grab you around the collarbones and slip up onto your neck, and your whole heart seems to skip a beat. Your lungs seem to stop temporarily. Your diaphragm tries to suck in, but the muscles in your throat are constricted against the sudden cold of this hand grabbing you by the neck. And then as its hand closes around you, your neck shrinks a little, and your strength score decreases by 2. So our strength score, which I think was strength modifier is a +1, which would mean that we have either a 12 or a 13. Can't remember right now, but I think it was a 12. Either way, our strength score is now either a 10 or 11, and our strength modifier is a +0. It grabs us. It does 12 points of damage, which takes us down from 36 to... Let me write it on here so I don't have to keep it in my head. Get out of here. 36 takes us down to 24. We are not showing signs of being wounded yet. Then that is, I believe, all that it can do. Then it is the other one that seems to come down from these back steps here, and again slithering along the ground. I'm going to make a perception check on this one. Alright, we do see this one coming out of the corner of our eye, but we've got much more pressing matters on the one that just seemed to attack us, and it doesn't. We don't notice the thing that we might have otherwise. This one runs up to Kathleen, and it's going to take an attack. That is going to, with her armor, that's going to miss just. That is just going to miss. That's one less than it needed. So it strikes out for her at the last second. She brings her sword round to try and cut it, but it retracts its arm. The two things that you know about these ones, the ones that have just joined the fight, is that they seem to be more... They seem to be moving in a much more proficient way, as if they are slightly more their own being, rather than wispy shadow. It seems like they were once shadow and have now become its own defined creature in a little bit more defined a way, if you know what I mean. The other ones were, the way that they were moving was like in amongst the other shadows and up against the wall, and then only when they needed to reach out and attack they would do so. These ones seem to just be like running through the street and attacking at will. Our current HP is 24. 24 out of 38. Don't take it out on us just because you haven't managed to kill Ben yet. Maybe run to a lamp and light a fire arrow. We are underneath an oil lamp. I believe that is all the shadows, so now it is back to the top of the round with Apis. Oops, not necromancer yet. Doop. Apis. We've had time to enter now, enter the chance to decide. So, Wraith, the appropriately named Wraith, 85. You're still in the chat, aren't you, Wraith? Yes, you are. What are you going to do, Wraith? You're in a situation where there are still 3 living shadows that you can see on the battlefield, and a necromancer on a balcony. Would it cost an action to light a fire arrow from the lamp behind us? Yes, it would. The lamp is like up a little. You would have to climb up, stick your arrow into it. It'd definitely take your whole action. In a situation where you have a torch pre-lit and like stuck into the ground next to you and the fire is just there, then that's just part of the attack action. But if the fire isn't readily accessible for you to just quickly dip your torch into, that's definitely going to be an action to light it. Right, just going to planar warrior that necro bitch in the window then, I reckon. Sweet. So you, seeing that whoever this lady is in this dark HUD, I'll make an intelligence check right now. What would it be? Investigation. Ooh, 22. That's a good investigation check. As we look up, trying to piece all this together, what is happening? How are we fighting living shadows? What the fuck is going on? We look up at her, and we see her standing on the balcony of of this house or this apartment. You don't know if it's hers or not. You see her standing in this balcony, and you recognize the silhouette from her. There seems to be a fire on behind her or something, and she is lit from behind. You recognize the silhouette of her somehow. You're not sure why for a moment, but you don't really dwell on it as you pick out your arrow and begin focusing on planar warrior. But when you're pulling it back and you're looking at her, you realize that you recognize her silhouette because you just shot it dead. The exact same form and the exact same dimensions and the movement of the body as that just came down the stairs and attacked is the thing that's now standing on top of the thing attacking. This creature, whoever she is, she had an identical shadow of her that was the one to attack Kathleen, the one that you've already extinguished with your previous arrow. You're not sure in the moment what that means, but you certainly don't dwell on it. You focus on planar warrior, you get that tingling across your body, and you let it into the arrow. As you let the arrow loose, let's make an attack and see if it hits. Attack roll, planar warrior. That is going to be a 22 to hit. Nightbot really wants us to hit in this fight. And with, not a lot of damage though. 22 to hit, so we definitely hit, but... Oh, that was missing planar warrior, there we go. A 1. I got a 1 on the planar warrior dice as well. So basically almost minimized the damage. In fact, did minimize the damage. So 4 points of damage, but we at least hit. You fire it off, and she sees it coming and darts to the side, not very quickly though, and it strikes through the shoulder. It seems to hit tangible, real person, and there is a scream of pain. And she looks across the street to you. You assume. You can't really see the face. But she seems to notice that you're here and realise that you're an issue. You're a danger. She takes 4 points of damage. Wraith, you are still in charge of Apis right now. You've used your bonus and your action. Would you like to use your movement to go anywhere? keeping in mind that if you leave this guy's melee range, he gets an attack of opportunity. Nope, it'll make an attack if we move, only if you leave its melee range. In the meantime, let's grab a new keyword. As a thank you for Dead Aussie Gamer raiding us, we will go !DAG in the chat, D-A-G. !DAG in the chat if you want to be in with a chance to decide what happens next. Next up in the initiative order is the necromancer. Seeing you shoot them with an arrow, they look across the road there, and they reach out their hand. Look at this. And they seem to close up and then burst it open. And as they burst it open, you feel this itching and wriggling sensation right underneath your skin. All of a sudden, you feel tingling and itching happening all over your body as you look down at your hands and you can see things pulsing and moving and crawling within your body underneath just the surface of the skin. And then everywhere, all at once, all in a moment, things start to burst out of your skin. Tiny little creeping critters and worms push themselves out of your skin all over your body. You can feel it happening on your neck, on your face, even under your eyebrows. You can feel these things creeping out of your body and bursting free, and then starting to buzz and creep and crawl and all around you. So you need to make a Constitution saving throw, which I do by going like so. Hey, dirty 20. A dirty 20. Okay, nothing happens because it's cantrip. She does this, all of these things burst out of you, and then the moment that they come out of you, they disappear into wispy smoke, and you look down at your hands and realise there's no holes, there's no wounds, there's no nothing left in you. It seems like whatever it was potentially in your mind, or an illusion of some kind perhaps. It was creepy and freaky and made you itch, but you didn't succumb to whatever the effect was. That was her turn. She is going to now move back inside. Yeah, she's going to use her movement to get back inside, out of sight, out of mind. She's not somewhere you can see anymore. The doors to her balcony are left open still. Yeah, I think that's everything she can do. So now it is the allies' turn. Kathleen is going to go first and strike first at this shadow on the wall. That is with her new modifier, that is a hit still, just, I think. Let me just double check the AC now. Yes, still a hit. So she manages to strike it for minimal damage. So that one still doesn't go down because of her new weakened state. But that one will do it. Alright, so with the second attack, she strikes down twice, and with both attacks she manages to cut through this one on the wall here, and it is no more. She then turns, realizing the predicament she's in and the potential for real danger here. She's going to use her action surge, which gives her another action. She's going to take the attack action again, which gives her another 2 attacks. Nat 20! Damn, she's rolling well. Ever since she lost her her strength, she's rolled 2 nat 20s. Oh no shit! Third nat 20. No word of a lie. She just got another nat 20. 2 in a row that was. Go Kathleen. Damn, she might stick around as an ally of yours in future if you can convince her to forgive you for your discretions. Jeez Louise. All right, so that is going to be maxed out. That's going to be... That's 34 points of damage. That is enough to outright kill that one. And this one was... Yeah. I'm going to make a perception check for you just as she kills that one. I'm going to make a perception check to see if you notice something. It's this one. Yep, 7. You do not. She cuts down through it. Wham, wham! With 2 striking motions, she manages to find some finesse to her attack, rather than attacking just with her brute strength. Now that she doesn't have the strength, she attacks with a little more finesse and manages to cut through this thing, insta-kill it. The motion draws your eye, you look over, and just in time to see it dissipate into wispy smoke. Alright, that is her. She is going to use her movement to... She looks around, she sees you're in danger, she runs over to here. That is it. Crit confirmed. Yeah. Back in earlier editions of D&D, by the way, guys, you needed to, in order to critical hit someone, you actually needed to do that twice. You needed to first roll a 20, and then you needed to roll again, and it would need to hit the armor class of the creature, if I'm remembering that right. I've never actually played it myself, but I've heard about it. So critical hits used to be very important, very rare in earlier editions, because you first needed to crit, and then you also needed to hit again subsequently. Otherwise, it was just a regular hit. So, bam, 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 bam. She takes down that one. She runs over to you. She's used her action. She's not got a bonus action she can use, I don't think. I think that's everything she can do. So it is now Mosh's turn. Mosh is going to attempt again to climb up onto this balcony from where he is. His athletics check is an 18 plus his athletics modifier, which now is actually negative because... Oh no, he's still proficient in it. So now it would be like a +1 or 2 or something. So either way, that's enough. He manages to jump up. This time, no check required. He's not like trying to hide it anymore. He's not like fighting with fists or anything. He's just outright has them open. You can see as he jumps that he has claws. He has animal claws on his instead of hands. He jumps up and digs them into the wood of the balcony, and then he swings himself up. He swings himself up and like a muscle up onto the balcony edge, and he swings himself up. He uses one hand to keep pushing while the other hand grabs the top of the railing around the balcony. He lifts himself up and swings himself over. Bam! And he is up and into the balcony here. Good job, Mosh. He swings himself up into the balcony. He is still wounded, by the way. That was his action to do so. And so he is going to... He's going to use his movement to move like out of your line of sight and across to wherever she is, presumably. Necromancer just went inside, and from where you are, looking up at the balcony, you couldn't see where she went. So I took her off the map. And he just ran in to try and find her and get her out of the house. That is all of your allies' turns. It is now back to the Shadow's turns. The Shadow, being that there's just this one left. I'm going to roll a perception check on her behalf. An investigation check, actually, on her behalf. No, she doesn't notice in the moment. The Shadow is going to make an attack. Who's it going to go for, you or Kathleen? I think it's going to go for you. It was going for you to begin with. It's going to continue going for you. That is going to be a... That's definitely a hit. What am I doing? Oh yeah, that's right. Not a lot this time. It was only a 7 points. Oh, and only 1, thankfully, for you. That is 7 points of necrotic damage, taking us down to 17. 17 means that we're less than half our hit points now, so we are now showing signs of being bloodied. As it reaches out, Kathleen gets there, but not quite quick enough. It reaches both of its blackened, smoky hands forwards, grabs us around the neck, and we feel that choking sensation, but we also feel the cold air on our neck, as if like the air is passing through the shadow, but still managing to choke us out. And as we're getting choked, we feel this creeping sensation of this necrotic energy pulsing into our body, as again more of our strength leaves our body. We lose 1 more point of strength. Can anybody double check for me somehow? In fact, I can do that. I can check on... Oh, do you guys have the something around here on the screen, right? The Apus's character sheet on D&D Beyond. Can you tell me what Apus's strength score is? Quick for you to... Thank you, Fancy. There it is. D&D Beyond character sheet. quicker to click a link than to find it myself. Apis' strength is a 13, that's good, because now we're down to 10. Apis' strength score, we only lost 1 point that time. Apis is down to a 10 in strength, which is a +0 modifier. We are slightly below the average human strength. That was the Shadow's attack. That's all it can do. Is it going to move? No, because it gets attacked by Kathleen. That's all it can do. There's no more shadows coming. So that is back to the top of the round. Apis. Who's going to control Apis this round? It's going to be Zed Massacre. Zed Massacre, are you still in the chat? Can you use an emote to say that you're still here? Is it permanent? We don't know. We've got no idea. Yes, you are. Awesome. Welcome along, Zed Massacre. What do you want to do? You've had a whole round to decide. We have one very real enemy right in front of us who has not taken any damage yet. A shadow that looks like the form of like an overweight humanoid. It seems to be almost two-dimensional, and he's shimmering a little bit under this light. And we also have another enemy that's inside, probably much more dangerous enemy, but is currently not more immediately dangerous to you. Planar Warrior Longsword. Alright, Planar Warrior Longsword it is. So in order to Planar Warrior, we need our bonus action. In order to bonus action, we're going to have to drop the weapon rather than stowing it. So this thing is running over to us. We've still got the bow out. We realise that in order to put it away will take too long. So we just drop the bow on the ground. We draw the longsword out. And as we draw it out, we try and feel this tingling fear, which is fairly easy to do because this thing is still choking us out. It's still got its two-dimensional hands wrapped around and inside of our throat as it's drawing strength from our cheeks. We use the strength that we've got left to draw out this longsword, and as it draws out, the vibrations of the metal scraping along the sheath seem to go in tune and harmonise with the vibrations of our skin tingling with goosebumps, until as we draw it out, the handle of the blade seems to be in the material plane, but the actual blade itself seems to disappear into the ethereal. As we draw it up, we try and strike it across in the same motion, strike it across the being that's in front of us, hands around our neck. And we're going to make an attack roll with Planar Warrior Longsword, which, if I remember rightly, is this one. Attack Planar Warrior Longsword. Come on, Nightbot, where are you? Nightbot doesn't want to roll that for some reason. Let me give it a second. There it is. Longsword to hit. That's going to be a 15 to hit. That's going to be 15 to hit and 7 points of damage if we hit. 15 is enough to hit. We feel the blade of the sword dig into something tangible, as if this two-dimensional creature is actually there and a real tangible object. It cuts into this thing which seems to, its head seems to go back as if it's crying out in pain, but no sound leaves its mouth. We push the sword all the way through, and as it gets to about halfway, the blade of it seems to burst back into the real plane of existence, the material plane, bringing with it some of that force energy from the planes of existence, hitting it for 7 points of damage. It shimmers and ripples as if you've struck your sword across water, but very quickly it reforms, takes its form back again, a form of this slightly larger, overweight man. It has done some damage, but not enough to kill it. Well done, Zed Massacre. You've got your movement left. If you wanted to skirt around this thing, you could get to the backside of it, or if you wanted to go anywhere else, you could. If you wanted to run away, you could, but you'd be risking an attack of opportunity. While Zed Massacre decides whether or not to move, I'm going to roll up the next round. Who's going to be next? We're going to go with... We've done Mosh, we've done Shadow, we've done... let's do exclamation mark dark. Move as far behind our friend as I can, knowing about attack of opportunity, but hopefully opening a window of opportunity for her. So you do, just to be 100% clear there, Zed Massacre, you do want to leave its melee range in order to open up the opportunity for your friend Kathleen? Because in order to move behind your friend, like if you wanted to move over here, you can do so, but you would be leaving its melee range. If you wanted to move right behind her, you can. If you wanted to move behind the creature, though, if that's what you meant, move as far behind our friend as I can, knowing about attack of opportunity, but hopefully opening a window of opportunity for her. Yes. All right, cool. So Apis decides, okay, yes, I'll be putting myself at risk, but I'll be taking myself out of its target. Hopefully Kathleen becomes the target for it, and then I can, between Kathleen and I, we can open up our, open up this creature for more attacks. So we use our whole movement. Well, first we use 5 feet of our movement, and it's going to take an attack of opportunity. Shit. Miss. That is a miss. It is straight up miss. So it takes a strike out at us, but Kathleen brings up her sword just as it brings out its hand, and it has to move its hand back to avoid being struck by the sword. So we managed to get out of its range without getting an attack. That's 5. Where are we going? So as far behind her as you can, you said, right? So with your 20 feet remaining, boom, you get to about there. You have also dropped your longbow and then moved out of the space. So your longbow is currently in this space here. You have your long sword. You do not have a longbow. Pretty sure Rob lied to let us live. Nope. Nope, I wanted to kill you. Well, I didn't want to kill you. I wanted to hit you. I wanted this to be a more dangerous situation. I wanted it to get pretty freaking scary how close to death you were getting. I wanted it to hit you, but I have to play by the dice. Using Kathleen as a human shield. Potentially, but she's not wounded and you are. Alright, that is your turn. It's already dangerous! Yeah, but it can always get more dangerous. That is your turn. Who is next? We've got initiative. We've got... Who was next? That's the necromancer. There's the sound from inside. How much would you hear of it? Let's see. Perception. We don't hear what's going on inside. She does what she does, and then that's her turn. It is now the ally's turn. Kathleen is going to take 2 strikes at this thing with her slightly lower modifier to hit because of her lower strength. Nat 1! It comes back around. Okay. Comes back around. She can't get 3 nat 20s in a fight without it making up for it with a nat 1. Alright. So, Rob, the DM is not your enemy. Also Rob. Damn it! Missed. The DM's still got to have some fun with his characters. Alright, so with the first strike, strikes up. I don't do critical fumbles for lots of reasons that I'll go into on a charisma check if you want to know. So she just misses. The next one is also a shitty... That's going to also miss. That was a 6. She strikes down at this thing twice. Now I'm going to repeat the check for her to see if she now gets another chance to investigate this. With her investigation, still doesn't notice. That is Kathleen. Then it is Mosh. Mosh is going to... Let me check. Well, firstly... that's a miss. And then Mosh is gonna... And that is a... That is also a miss. Then he's gonna... That one is... Let me check. That one is a hit, just. Alright, interesting. Oh, that's not a thing, is it? There's lots of things going on behind the scenes here, guys. I'd be describing it if you could see it, but you're not in the room, so you can't see things that I can. Need to do... I'm also not familiar with the D&D Beyond player app yet, so it's taking a little time to navigate it. Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, she is going to take... points of damage. Okay. Okay, that's everything that Mosh can do. As the allies done, it is now the Shadow's turn. Before we get into what the Shadow is going to do, I'm just going to draw that thing for Apis, who is going to be the one to decide what Apis does next. Roll it. Park Chim Chim 06. Can't hear anything either. No, I rolled to see how much you'd be able to hear in the battle, Cinderfingers, and you got a 6. So apparently Apis's attention is on what's going on outside and is not able to hear, or potentially is just not paying attention to what's going on inside. Would take an action to pick up a bow. No, it's just a free object interact, essentially. Depends on the situation, obviously. We used our object interact to draw our weapon. That's why we didn't pick it up. Pack Chim Chim has entered and then left. Let's re-roll. Katarina, you're here. I saw you said something just before, didn't I? Where are you? Katarina, are you here? Oh, I didn't see you say something before, actually. Yes, there you are. Get him, cat! What are you doing? You're standing over here. You have a long sword, but no long bow. Your long bow is still in the space over here. What do you want to do? How far is it to the balcony? Good question. Let me find out. How far is it to the balcony from where you are as the crow flies? Well, around the corner here as the crow flies. So it'd be 18 feet-ish to the base of the balcony and about a 10 feet up. And you're about 4.5 feet tall as a dwarf. It'd be a significant challenge for you to jump up to it. You could potentially climb up to it somehow. But Mosh was able to jump up to it because he's human and quite a large build. His crest's about 6 foot and he had a decent jump on him. There are also the stairs at the front of the house that you could just go up. If you wanted to go indoors the long way around, you could actually just try and get in through the front door. How far to the door at the stairs? Good question. Let's have a look. How far to the door at the stairs? So from where you are, you would have to run. You'd have to go up the stairs here. It'd be about 60 feet to get to the doors. So you'd have to run with a dash. Would get you to about here. And then on the next turn of combat, you could go through the door, or like try and get to the door, and somewhere inside with a movement would be enough to get you inside, being able to see what's happening. Hate to do this, but wasn't it the Shadow's turn? Yes, it is. Thank you, Nangs. It is the Shadow's turn. I drew it in order to find out what Katarina was going to do, but I didn't actually mean to wait for her to do it. Thank you, Nangs, for keeping me on track. Got a lot of things to keep track of when I'm doing Twitch tales like this. The Shadow, while Katarina is deciding what to do, the Shadow is going to turn to your friend Kathleen and take its clawing attack. As you break out of its grip, it's going to move towards her instead and try and grab her by the throat. What's with the other stairs? The other stairs seem to lead to another door into the building. You could try and run for those if you wanted to. No, don't apologise, Nangs, for being honest. There's no point winning if you're going to do it by cheating. So it is going to turn to Kathleen, and it manages to hit her. She takes another... Ooh, she's bloodied. She's bloodied, but not dead. Where is she? Over here. Bloodied but not dead. And then how is she looking for her strength? Oh boy. Oh boy, that's not good. As you look back over your shoulder, Kathleen does manage to does in fact take the attention of the Shadow that was on you, and it seems to grab her and strangle her, and her legs go buckle a little bit because she starts to lose some strength in her legs, some musculature. You see that the armor that she's wearing seems to be a little heavy for her now. Looking at her arms, her longsword drops down, and it's quite hard for her to to swing her longsword now. Her arms seem to be of the emaciated state. Looking at someone of this stature, you would say, oh boy, they've got some kind of muscle wasting disease. Not quite to the Stephen Hawking level, but pretty muscle wasted at the moment. Alright, that is the shadow's turn. It is then going to move around. It's going to move. How smart is it? Let me think. Is it going to go for you? Is it going to leave her? I'll say it just stands. It moves around to stand over the top of your bow. And it is staying where it is, but it's in the same space as your bow now. Alright, that is the shadow's turn entirely. It is now Apis' turn. Katerina, you've decided what you're going to do. What are you going to do? Apis charges towards the remaining shadow, sliding across the street to slash upward at it with Planar Warrior. Awesome. Let's do that. Apis turns around, seeing this thing attack Kathleen, and she seems like she was holding her own in the start of the fight, and so you thought maybe she could take this thing out while you go for the other lady, but you realise, nah, she needs my help, and I can't afford for Kathleen to go down. So you use the running start to run, run. You get over here, you slide across, and you're going to take a strike with your longsword and Planar Warrior. As you get your sword out and above your head, you seem to you feel like as you're driving it forwards, you're cutting through the air itself. You're feeling the molecules of the air part and sort of glancing upwards to make sure that you're not actually hitting something that you can't see. You realise that trailing off the edge of it is like the sound waves, which seem to be cutting into the ethereal plane. And as it strikes down at the enemy, let's see if it hits. Attack, Planar Warrior, longsword. That is going to be a 23 to hit and 11 points of damage. Strike down, bam! It hits into this thing. It ripples all the way through the body. It hits it for quite a significant amount of damage. It is now wounded. It's having a harder time holding itself together. It's still definitely there, but it's shimmering a little bit more at the edges. The edges of this very defined silhouette is slightly less defined now. Was it a nat 20? It was a nat 20. Oh shit. Yeah, it was a nat 20. Nice work. So it's actually more than that. So how much damage is it? It's maxed out the dice, which is 8, and then plus 1, and then we roll another d8. So there's another 3 plus d8 on top of that. 4. So that's another 7 points on top of that. So 7 on top of that's 18. 18 plus the 7 we'd already done is 25. Doesn't change the fact that it's wounded. It's still wounded. It's still alive. But it's now taken 25 hit points of damage. Nice stuff. Crit. We strike it. That was our bonus action and our action. For a free action, using the fact that we just crit it, I will allow for you to be able to grab the bow that's in its space and pick it up. For free action, you object interact. You've already had your sword drawn this turn, so you didn't need to draw that as part of your attack. You pick up your bow. You've now got both of them drawn, both of them out, but you sling the bow on your shoulder and rise back up to your feet. Like a boss. Nice work, Apis. I can close this one down now. Nightbot. Who's going to go next? Let's start it up. Let's go with keyword bow, because we've just picked up our bow. Yeah, okay. So this is what's going to happen now. The necromancer is going to get to go. She comes doing her thing inside. 20, 25, 30. You see the door come flying open. And out comes the necromancer. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. She seems to dash. And does she first? Yes and no. Wham, wham. Okay. Cool. And then No, actually, she's got this thing is going to not do that. It's going to do this instead. You see a figure come to the door of the balcony. Just to give you a nice close-up of what that looks like. It's this grotesque amalgamation of like amorphous pooled mass. It sort of seems like a mixture of clay and flesh, with these like two heads coming from it. It comes to the front of the balcony here, and when it gets there, it screams. It screams very loud and very dreadfully. I'll turn my volume down before doing this. And I need you to make a wisdom saving throw. So on behalf of Kathleen, I'll make her wisdom saving throw here. She succeeds. Just. On behalf of Mosh, he also succeeds. Ooh man, if you succeed this. If you succeed this, where's the wisdom save? I do this and then I do, that one is wisdom here. 15. I think that succeeds. Let me check. Yeah, shit. Well, fuck. Everyone succeeds against it. Well done. You succeed on the wisdom saving throw. Nothing else happens on your turn, on this turn anyway. That's all that you can see and do right now. So then it is back to your allies' turn. Allies. Stop being so damn disappointed at not hurting us. I'm disappointed that this cool monster didn't get to succeed on its once per day ability. Nothing happened. It's like me casting a spell and everybody succeeds against it and lost my spell slot now. We just look up and yell, "Shut up." Dude, what's wrong with you? Just gives both middle fingers at the necromancer and leaves. Alright. It's on the balcony. You can see it. It shrieked in pain and suffering, which is terrifying, but not to the point where you're more focused on the terror than you are on the issues at hand. Then then it's the allies' turn, and at the end of the allies' turn, we'll draw the next person. So the allies, we've got Kathleen here, who is looking rather weak. She's gonna fight to the end. So even though she's got a -2, which cancels out that, she's got a +1 on her attack now. still hits. Go Kathleen! She manages to draw down inner strength, even though she's not got the muscular strength anymore. She lifts up the sword and just like tries to make it's like she's wielding a massive anime greatsword, but it's just a regular longsword. And she drives it down. She's gonna do this much -2 damage. She's rolling well though. That guy's, it strikes through him and it's almost looking good. He's almost looking dead. She strikes down and the thing seems to be having a hard time keeping its form together. One of its arms has now just disappeared. It's looking much more like a shadow that lots of illuminated sources are sort of dulling out. Is starting to fade through. The black is less pitch black. With her second attack, she's going to strike it. That one, even with her modifier, will hit. And she's going to do the same amount of damage. Fucking hell. God damn it. Down it goes. She summons up the last of her energy. She strikes it once, and then it reaches out towards you and her, and it's reaching both one of its remaining hand out, and it's going to try and grab either of you. It's going for your throat, and she brings her sword down and it strikes it above the shoulder and drives all the way through it, and it dissipates into nothingness. I'm going to roll an investigation check on her behalf to see if she sees it for the last time. She's last chance to. Nope, she does not notice. Okay. I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind? Name it. Katerina feigns tension so that Rob won't scale up the difficulty next time. Yeah. That is the shadow gone. Well done, Kathleen. She is all out of her actions. She's got nothing else she can do as a bonus, I don't think. So she's going to use her movement to sort of stumble across this way. Oh. She's now wearing armor that she's not strong enough to wear, so all of her attacks should have been at disadvantage. First one missed, second one hit. First one missed, second one hit. She's at disadvantage because she's wearing armor she's no longer strong enough to wear. Nothing else had happened yet, so it's fine to retcon it. She struck it once, she still hit it, but the first one was just a little too weak for it to hit. That is all she can do. It is now Mosh. What can you do, Mosh? Is he going after her? He's going after her. Yeah, he's going after her. Of course he is. All of his movement. 15, 20, 25, 30, and then 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. He manages to get to her with a dash. No, wait, he shouldn't be able to do that because she dashed already. Oh, but she had to stop to open the door and he didn't. Okay, yeah. So he'd probably get to about here. Still melee, but not quite. Oh, yeah, melee, but not like as far melee as possible. Tense, tense, tense. Alright, that is all that the allies can do on their turns. It is now back to the Shadow's turn, who is still around. Let's roll a Nightbot giveaway. Who's going to be the one to decide? Two Bread, Tom, you still in the chat? Yes, you are. I can see you speaking right there. Two Bread, what are you going to do? You think about what you're going to do while the Shadow takes its turn. The Shadow is going to turn 2. Who's looking the worst out of you and Kathleen? It's going to try and kill one of you. Who looks the worst? You're on 17 hit points, right? I said 17, right? You're on 17. Kathleen is down. She's further than that. It could potentially kill her. I think he's got the chance to kill. Yeah, she's looking definitely more wounded than you are, so she's going to try and kill her. Here we go with Kathleen. That is going to be just enough. That's exactly what he needed to hit in order to hit her. Oh, that's almost max damage too. Kathleen is looks like she's holding on there at the very brink of death. As it reaches out with its remaining hand, as it is on the brink of death too, it seems to just like face palm her, and everywhere it touches seems to be followed by this dark bluish black veins popping through her face, and you can now see the very strong definition of the cheekbones and the jawbone as all of the strength in her face is lost. It reaches down her neck and strikes her, and she goes down to one knee, and then uses the sword to like pick herself back up again. It looks like she's now getting to the point where she's sort of on the this person has been bedridden for a few years kind of level of muscularity. She's still alive. She looks like she's one more hit away from death, perhaps. Then the Shadow isn't going to move because it's not very smart, but it's smart enough to not do that. Two Bread Tom, it is now your turn. You've had time to think about it. What are you going to do as Apis on your turn? You've got this Shadow in front of you who is very, very close to death. You've also got Kathleen who's very, very close to death. You've got a necromancer who seems to have run out of the house for whatever reason, who is not yet close to death. She's not showing signs of being wounded. And you've got Mosh, who is showing signs of being wounded, but he's still hanging in there, and he's continuing on after her. What do you want to do in this situation? If I longsword and planar warrior, can I still take a potion? No. So a potion is either an action to drink or a bonus action to drink. Planar warrior is your bonus and attacking is your action. So if you planar warrior then attack, you will have used both your bonus and your action. Kathleen won't run unless it's to get help. She'll fight to the end. It seems like it. She can barely move in her armor anymore. Planar warrior and attack. See if we can take out this shadow. Alright. You utilize the fear of your friend friend. You utilize the fear of your ally almost dying next to you, and if she goes down with the amount of damage she was doing, if she goes down, there's a good chance you ain't getting out of this alive. So you use that fear, fight to the last moment, and you feel that crackling energy surge down your hand into the blade of the sword as you bring it across. You're getting quite good at summoning this planar energy now. Let's make a longsword attack with planar warrior. Planar warrior longsword to attack. That is a 6+3. That's a 9 to attack. That is going to miss unless you use your inspiration to re-roll it. Yes or no in the chat. Thumbs up or down in the chat if you do or do not want to use your inspiration to re-roll that attack. Yes, 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 inspiration, yes, 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 yes. I'm seeing no no's. So we are going to use that inspiration. I'm going to go down there, I'm going to turn it off. We no longer have inspiration, but we're going to re-roll it and hope for the best. Here we go, attack, boom. Planar warrior, longsword, attack. That is a 17+3 to hit. That is a dirty 20. A dirty 20, 11 damage. You strike through this thing. As it's got Kathleen down on her knees in her armor, barely able to lift herself up. She's just getting back to its feet, and you can see it growing and sort of hulking over the top of her as it's sucking the energy out of her. You just reach your sword across and cut right down through its arms. The arms around her throat instantly dissipate, leaving her free to stand, and the rest of it seems like a burning fuse from the point that you cut, where it's cauterized the shadow's arms. It seems to push back up it like flash paper being lit. It seems to recoil in pain, and you can see the head of this shadow shake back as if it's like jolting in pain and fear and screaming out in pain, but you can't hear anything coming from it as the burning effect dissipates the entire shadow, and it is gone. That has taken out one of their initiatives, guys. It is now just necromancer and this spawn thing that she's somehow gotten from inside, whatever she was doing inside. Has nobody else heard this going down? There's a lot of screaming. Yeah, but each round is only 6 seconds, remember, Sparrow. So while they have potentially heard it, because you're relatively close in town, it takes several rounds for people to run from where they are to the edge of town, which is where you are. I have been keeping a track of it, don't worry. Then it is... That was your attack and your bonus action. You still have your movement, Two Bread Tom. I'd like to move in front of Kathleen now and yell as loudly as possible for Darren or others to come and help. Awesome, good idea. You step between Kathleen and the necromancer, and you scream at the top of your lungs, "Help! Help! Help! The shadows are attacking! There's a necromancer!" Everything you can think to shout in the moment, you shout it at the top of your lungs. You look across the street, down the street, and you do see flames of torches as people are running your direction. There may be... How many rounds would it be? This is round... So I'd say maybe they're like 12 seconds away or so, give or take. The first thing that was loud enough for them to hear was the screaming wail of the goopy mass that's on her balcony, and that's from that point I've been counting the rounds to see how long it'll take them to get to you. That is all of Apis' turn. It is now the necromancer's turn. The necromancer is going to... She's going to... Where are you, necromancer? Let's put you on the initiative order while I think on things. Alright, she is going to use her movement. 5, 10, 15, 20. As she moves past you and out of your space on the other side, you get an attack of opportunity if you wish to take it. I'm not even going to ask. Of course, you're all going to want to take it. You can't plane a warrior on this because it's not your turn. You don't have a bonus action to do it. But you can take a regular attack. That is a 16 to hit. 16 will hit. You do minimum damage too. You do an extra 2 points of damage to her. You cut across the robe of her... you cut across the top of her arm in the robe, which cuts into it. She calls out in pain. I'm going to make a perception check on your behalf as she runs past you to see if you notice who she is. Perception check. An 18. As she runs past, you notice that the light now no longer illuminated from behind but in front with the street lights. You can see a little bit into her dark hood that she's got up. And you notice that she's wearing a bandana across the lower half of her face. But there's something familiar about the upper part of her face. There's also her stature. The way that she walks, the height of her and the movement, the way that she moves, it seems familiar. You feel like you have seen this woman before, but you can't think where. And then as you cut her arm and she starts to move off, you realise that you have seen this woman before. Way back when I did the perception check that I didn't tell you what it was for, and I was deliberately asking myself whether you would notice something that you would then find out the significance of later. It was when you arrived back in Shadridge and you were walking with Toria towards Edith's place. And you passed some people on the streets. And one of the people you passed on the streets was a relatively short, brown-haired girl. Maybe in her 20s. A lady. Not Clarissa. You recognize her from when you saw her on the street outside Edith's place. And what's more, you recognize her from when, after breaking yourself into Edith's place, you recognize her from standing outside Edith's place in the crowd of people that started to come into Edith's shop. She was there with Franklin, she was there with a few others. She was also there when you noticed Franklin on the streets outside when you were in manacles. She was standing by Franklin's side. You haven't been introduced to her yet, but you're pretty sure this is Sally. She uses the rest of her movement to continue on down the street, and then with a bonus action, she uses a bonus action to dash, and she continues another ways down the street. And as she goes, she summons black circles in her hand, which she throws backwards over her shoulder at you and at Kathleen. She's making 2 attacks, one at you, one at Kathleen. The first one hits you, the second one hits Kathleen. You take 4 points of necrotic damage. Force damage rather. Takes you down to 13. And Kathleen takes 4 as well and goes down. Kathleen is unconscious. Knocked to the ground. Wham! She hits the ground. You are pushed back 10 feet by the force of her attack. And as is Kathleen, as she gets smashed and falls to the ground, she's pushed 10 feet back. So now that's 20, 30, 10, another 30, so she's 40. She's now 50 feet away from you and running away from the oncoming crowd of people. That is her turn. Then it is this slopping spawn of Satan thing up on the balcony, which slops off the edge. I'm going to see if it takes any damage. What's its modifier here? It's not going to take any damage from it. It hits the ground with a wet, slopping slap, and then it right next to you already, so it's going to take an attack. That's going to hit. How much damage does it do again? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on, where? Yes. D&D Beyond. Be easier to use. How does it hit? What does it do? Oh wow, that's quite a lot of damage. Six plus 6, that's 12 points. 12 points. You had 13, didn't you? You were on 17, you took 4 points. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you were on 13 hit points and it just does 12 points of damage to you, cold damage. That is, wow, okay. You are taken down to 1 point of damage as it does 12 points of cold damage to you, as it slaps you with this cold, wet, slapping. It seems to, again, in a similar sort of way to the shadow feeling like icy coldness within your body. This one feels like icy coldness from without your body. It seems like it's not seeping into your soul in the same way that the shadow was. Whack! It hits you. It does a bunch of damage. You are still conscious though. Then that is all of its turn and her turn. You now get to have your allies up. Your allies will... I'll just leave all of the initiatives on now. One few thing to talk about. Firstly, Kathleen will make a death saving throw. That was a 9. That is 1 failed death save on her behalf. Not that you really know that, I suppose. Then it is Mosh's turn. Mosh's turn is to... he's going to run over to this thing and strike it. As he does so, his arm's next to you. Now that he's right next to you as he's fighting, you get a little bit more detail on what he's fighting, how he's fighting. He's fighting in this sort of close standstill, and as he reaches down and across, you can see that his palms are very much like padded paws of like a canine's padded paws, and his fingers are claw-like, and the back of his hand has this like reddish ginger fur down his hands and into his arms. He's taking an attack, a swiping attack. That is a hit, and it's going to do... How much health does this thing have? Not a lot. That's got this much. Wham wham. It's not bloodied yet, but he manages to strike it, and it seems to cause damage as he cuts through it with his claws. I haven't confirmed that yet, Wraith. I don't know what you're talking about. That is Mosh's turn. It is now your other allies. They are now 1 round closer. They are about a round away from... You can see over your shoulder or hear them probably more now that you have focused on this thing. You can focus on the sound of people rushing along the street, and Darren's voice is definitely among the crowd. It is now back to Apis' turn. Apis, this may be your last round in combat, depending on what you do particularly. Let's see what you're going to do. FNG Snafu. What are you going to do, Snafu? You are on 1 hit point. You have an ally next to you who is very weak, has been drained of a lot of her strength modifier, and is unconscious and potentially bleeding out. You have another ally next to you who's wounded. He's showing signs of being wounded, but he seems to be slightly more healthy than you. And you have this huge, like, amalgamation mass of something that just slapped you for quite a significant amount of damage. You have a healing potion in your bag. You don't have any health. You don't have any spell slots left. You have allies that are about to be like 1 round away, maybe. Can we split the potion? Unfortunately not. No, that doesn't work like that. You have to get the benefits of the magic, you have to drink the whole thing. Planar sword again, could do. Pour the potion into Kathleen, could do. Administering a potion to someone is an action. Taking a potion yourself can be either an action or a bonus action, depending on if you want to take the full amount or not. If you use an action to administer it to someone, it's always a rolled one, because there's a chance that you like slop it around and they don't quite drink it all and stuff. So administering a potion as an action means that Kathleen will recover 2d4 plus 2, and she will come round to conscious. All of her death saves, fails or not, will be wiped clean. She starts again fresh. she will come back to life with at least 4 hit points, maybe as many as 10 hit points, depending on how you roll. If you take the potion yourself as an action, it instantly recovers you 10 hit points. If you take the potion yourself as a bonus action, then you again roll the damage. You roll the dice instead. So you're like doing it slightly quicker. There's more chance that some of it slops down over your chest or whatever, and you don't quite recover as many hit points as you would. That's how it works. So Snafu, can we attack without planar warrior and then take the potion as a bonus? You absolutely can. So that's what you're going to do, Snafu. I think you said that before I explained all the stuff about potions, so you're still good with that, right? Can I just get a confirmation that you're still good with that idea? Like, since you, I think you said that before I fully explained myself. Attack the thing with a regular sword, attack without your planar warrior, and then take the potion yourself as a bonus action, just to get you above 1 hit point. No? No. Okay. What do you want to do then instead? Will she get a turn? If she's conscious at the start of her turn, she gets a turn, yeah. But keep in mind that she's very weak. She's been drained of her strength and can barely pick herself up because of the armor she's wearing. Tally's not here anymore. She's still running away. She's 50 feet down the road, but she's still running. Like, she's not just disappeared. What does it matter if Darren arrests us if we don't survive to be arrested yet? True. Villagers are coming. We will attack with planar warrior. The monster hits more than the potion recovers. Smart. I did think that myself, and I was like, I'm not gonna tell you this. It's up to you guys to decide if this is the right way to do it or not. Drinking a potion that doesn't recover more than the damage you're about to intake is never really a good idea. All right. So hoping that Kathleen can be tended to by the people coming, or it's no point like healing her and then the guy just takes this massive monster takes her down anyway. So you're like, the best thing to do right now, kill this monster. So you planar warrior, bring the sword right up above your head and slash it down over him. And we're going to see what happens. Attack planar warrior longsword. That is going to be a 16 to hit, which will hit, and the damage will be a 14. 14 damage. It strikes down through this thing, cutting it almost in two. Like it's definitely showing signs of being wounded. It shrieks in pain, but it does not die. It was a lot of damage to it though. If you'd have crit, that might well have killed it. Alright, so you strike down, you've used your bonus action to planar warrior, you've used your action to attack it, you've got your movement left. Do you want to move anywhere, Snafu? If you leave this thing's melee range, it gets an attack of opportunity, but you could, for instance, step between it and Kathleen, just to put your body as an extra shield. That could use some of your movement if you wanted to. Was that max damage? 8 plus 1 plus... No, planar warrior could have gone another 3. And if you'd have crit, then it would have been a significant amount more damage, because it would have been an extra 16 on top of that. Might be actually 13 damage as we have... Oh yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so instead of the 14 damage plus 1, yeah, it should have been a 15 to hit, which still would have hit. And then the damage would have had the -1, so it would be 1 less damage. It's still wounded. Thank you for keeping me honest, Asmiel. Needs to know how our beard looks. We're in a fire. Moves between Kathleen and Hansen. Yeah, so you move into here to shield Kathleen from this thing, just to keep your body between it and whatever. And also, your beard is non-existent. Apis doesn't have a beard. Apis has sideburns, but does not have a beard. Apis is non-binary. Meat shield would be a good for multiple reasons, not the last of which is Darren would see as defending her from whatever that thing is. Yeah. Alright, so Apis' turn. That was a good turn, Snafu. Well done. Then it is the necromancer's turn. Is that right? Yeah, your allies had a turn to... Yeah, and then it's back to the necromancer already. So the necromancer continues to run. Before she does so, she turns around and 2 more eldritch blasts over her shoulder. That one will miss, but that one will hit. both of which were directed towards you, because you're the one she can see, still standing. So Apis, bam! You get smashed as you defend. You slash through this thing. As you turn and you're going to defend yourself against this creature, this huge ball of force energy hits you from the side. Wham! It knocks you 10 feet to the side. Poof, poof. And it also knocks you unconscious as you hit the ground hard. Everything goes black. And because everything goes black, I guess you don't get to see the rest of it. Is that a good place to leave it? Maybe. Let me just very quickly go through the rest of this on my own. I'm going to roll a death saving throw for you, because it'll get back round to your turn before anything else happens on the battlefield that you know of. So saving throw, death saving throw, that's just a straight d20. 10. Okay, so let me explain something here. In the rules as written in D&D, for a death saving throw to be a fail, you need a 1 to 9, or a 10 and above is a success. However, that makes it a 45% chance of a fail and a 55% chance of a success, and I don't like that. I like it to be a 50-50 shot. So in my rules, a 10 is a fail and an 11 or above is a success. So you, I'm afraid, have failed one death saving throw. Then it is the necromancer's turn. Okay, and then it is your ally's turn. And then it is back to your turn. You're going to need to make a death saving throw. Shit, I've just realised as well. You failed one death save here, guys. If this is a natural 1, that counts as 2 failed death saves. On top of the one you already have, makes it 3 failed death saves, and Apis is dead. If it is anything other than a nat 1, you do not die. There is a 1 in 20 chance that Apis dies right now. Let's do it. A 16. That is a success. That is 1 success, 1 failure that we've got. Then it is the necromancer's turn. Then it's the ally's turn. Nat 20 on their medicine check. Apis comes to with somebody looking over them. A face that sort of swims in front of you. You don't really know what's happening, where you are, what happened. You quickly look around, you see this monster. Where's the monster? You look around and you notice that the monster is no more. There are 2 halves of a slopped up monster on the ground. You also see Kathleen is someone's under Kathleen's neck and holding her up, and she's sort of shaking and blathering. It seems like she's come to as well, but she's still like not she's not cognizant very much yet. You also see Mosh just sitting against the wall over here, sitting down with his hands crossed underneath his arms, and he's just staring at the ground. He doesn't seem to have the energy to keep moving or run away. And Darren is doing his best to try and understand what the hell is going on in the situation. And that is where we're going to leave it for today. We'll pick up here next time. Thank you very much for joining me. This was a tense episode. I'll see you in episode 22.